I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and we're continuing with our coverage of Day 5 of Round 2 of the 2025 Carcassonne Champions League. For the next few hours, we're about to see multiple high-level Carcassonne matches. For starters, a Group E match, which is starting in 1 minute, between migrack of Spain and mtuu of Poland, where the Polish team captain in international tournaments will be the favorite here, at least rating-wise and experience-wise, but migrack is no stranger to professional Carcassonne. As part of Team Spain, they delivered some key wins in the 2023 deep run of Spain's Carcassonne team when Spain ended up ending in 2-4, and in this Champions League they already won their first match against, actually I forgot whether that was against Pyro, against Leo da Vinci. I think it actually might have been against the Japanese master, but we can check that out a little bit later, or maybe not. Let's check that out right now. So we know that migrack has won their first match, so this will be a battle for the first place in the group, at least temporarily. But okay, I'm starting to get really interested. Matches. I'm going to do this. Migrack. Yeah, oh no, they won against the Portuguese player, so they still are yet to play the Japanese master. The Japanese master was upset by the Hungarian player with the screen name Kisemo. Now migrack versus mtuu is about to start. I would assess the Polish player to be only like the 60% favorite. Do let me know who y'all are rooting for in the chat. And we'll now be checking whether the match has been created, and yes, it has just been created. It is starting. As you can see, currently the Polish player is 200 rating points above migrack, but Polish player is close to their peak, which is the upper 700s, and migrack's peak is, I believe, in the 600s. So we see a standard opening here. The Polish player with the green meeple starts a city and already immediate fireworks. migrack with the standard response of a road tile, which is also impeding the building of their city. But now migrack is trying to, I mean, the mtuu with the self-invasion, trying to make double or nothing and trying to basically complete the city with 2 meeples, but if he gets blocked, he's gonna get blocked with 2 meeples. And it seems that migrack, as a result, kind of panics a little bit because they respond with quite a severe mistake. This move over here by red, they just left a juicy shielded tile open, and mtuu immediately picks that up, threatening yet another 8-point city, but it worked like a charm for migrack, as this is the best tile that they could hope for, and this is not often that you say this about the quadruple city tile. Everybody hates that tile, except the Spanish player. How did he know? How did he know to bait green into meepling this 3-point city, threatening an 8-point city, and then red managed to dodge a city cap for a couple of turns and then complete this restriction. Now, the reason why it's such a huge gain, oh no, I've been getting a bit overexcited. This says, yeah, just red is really putting all his eggs in one basket here, trying to block that square. But interesting decision now for mtuu. We're going to see what he does in a second. Yeah, so the reason why it's so unpleasant is because, first of all, this square is partially restricted. We're actually running short on tiles that fit in the square because both cow tiles have gone out. Well, there's a third one still, but there's only one of those. And there's still multiple opportunities to create further blocking attacks against other squares. And since all these meeples are now tied together, the game really comes down to either mtuu is going to finish a huge city with 3 meeples, and it will be not possible to fight for the city anymore because how do you get 3 entry platforms? Or migrack is going to block either this square or this square or this square, and then all these 3 meeples will be trapped for a healthy 15 points or so. But it's not enough to justify the usage of 3 meeples, which is why red should win games like this most of the time, due to his long-term meeple advantage. Now, the reason why I dislike this move so much is the fact that monasteries, first of all, are valuable. This, like, in this monastery spot over here would have been fantastic for 5 points. Controlling this road, controlling the city of green, and also setting up another relatively easy 10-point city over here, because at that time 3 dagger tiles that were fit in the square were still available, and this square is actually very difficult to block because this square is severely restricted. But instead, migrack went straight for the blocking attack, which I think was a bit misplaced, because monasteries are generally the worst tiles for blocking because they're so inflexible and they provide a lot of defense tiles. For example, green could have defended with any curve, any straight line, but green drew a city tile and they were forced into a difficult choice. They ended up having to place the curve like this, still leaving at least 1 tile, or exactly 1 tile that fits into this square. So a lot really comes down to it. Either they're going to get their fantastic tile or not. So migrack, I think, going just really, really excessive on the blocking here, using a road monastery to try and block this square as well. This certainly is a good idea on the surface, because you want to be going over here with some big tile at some point, just so that you can make sure that the same tile is needed by green in both places. And then, of course, even if green draws it, we will not be able to fill both of those squares. So that would be what's typically referred to as a Sophie's Choice block. Now, migrack is really going heavily on the blocking here, also trying to restrict this road meeple, which actually does seem to work. The issue that I have, if you go really, really super heavy on the blocking, which is what appears to be happening right now, then in some scenarios you just lose the game anyway, because red might block all 3 green meeple. It actually looks increasingly likely, but we've sacrificed this monastery, and we've sacrificed a couple of other points, and it might just so happen that green could keep scoring. Then they will still be getting around 15 points from all those meeples in this area, and if they just manage to get ahead a little bit on the scoreboard, then it's possible that their meeple disadvantage won't matter too much. But now a great tile even for MTU, as they get to build up their city a little bit, which they don't even bother doing. That's actually really interesting. So I think green doesn't even want to threaten the completion of that city. They just want to outrun red. They just want to crush red with points. I'm not sure if they have quite enough firepower to do that yet, but they will be recovering both of these road meeples. They will be recovering all these city meeples in all likelihood, and then we will need to have a look at the scoreboard again and assess. Yeah, so that's actually really interesting here, and it's not that green doesn't have any chances of completing that city. They still could draw a road Dorito plus a regular Dorito and at least threaten the completion of the city. They could also draw back-to-back city caps, like back-to-back butterfly tiles. There are still 2 of those remaining in the deck, so there are still some options. But I think green's main idea is just try and set up himself winning chances even without this crucial tile. And this appears to be what's happening. So this city is now completely blocked, and this road is now completely blocked, by the way. That's actually quite a tricky thing to deal with for MTU, because whilst I was speaking, all the 4 starting tiles have gone out, so there's nothing that fits into this square, there's nothing that fits into this square. And MTU now gets a road monastery, and I wonder if they're gonna just go over here for 8 points. Because there's still 2 daggers to complete this city. It's not that easy to block that square, and this would be in line with their long-term strategy. Just trying to crush red with scoring. Because you see, they're already 12 points ahead on the scoreboard. They have a bunch of points from their blocked meeples, and half the game has already passed in just 9 minutes, by the way. So I believe that green has a reasonable chance. Now, red, of course, can still score a lot with his remaining meeples, but in order to do that, he will need to start drawing monasteries or field or stuff like this. Thank you, Wise Mace, for confirming the peak rating of migrack, which is in fact above 600. Hi, Andres. Hi, Nepamai. Yeah, actually, MTU has shown, I don't want to say extreme disregard for some meeples, but something close to this. Oh, that's actually a lovely monastery. That's even better than what I was suggesting. Well, he will get blocked in all likelihood, but still, that was a very nice try, given the fact that there are still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a bunch of city caps that go here. Look, MTU being extremely greedy, he actually still chooses to meeple yet another city cap, and now the Spanish player getting himself a fantastic tile, not only continuing their city at the top, but also starting a new one. And this is actually the kind of scoring that I was talking about. So the Spanish player was very patient, trying to make sure that he blocks everything, and now the meeples are coming to good use. For a split second, I was afraid that the Spaniard might go over here and do something like this to block the square, but of course they now realize that the priority is to score, and they complete their top city, equalize on the scoreboard, and they still have loads of meeples to play with. They have the first farmer. This monastery is still vulnerable. But actually, green still has a lot of chances. Well, first of all, green still is technically ahead. This monastery is scoring 7 points. This road is scoring 4, which equalizes the city. And these ruins still give green rather, what it is, 7, 11, 13 points. So close to 15. That's actually quite reasonable. And I think the main path for them into this game will be completing this monastery and getting a meeple back. So they can get the last remaining Dorito with the road tile, go over here, take 3 points for the road, and then continue Red City right into this blocked square over here. Of course, chances are not on their side. Red still has multiple city caps that are available for this square. And by multiple, I mean 2 after this move. Green is trying to save his second meeple, and it works like a charm because the extender is drawn, and 8-point city on MTU's scoreboard. He decided he can't afford to drop a farmer on that square just yet. Migrack, though, completes another city and is still close on the scoreboard, and he has all those points for a potential field. MTU, I think, now should not go for the field just yet, just because there's so many invasion platforms. We really need to try and consolidate and get some meeples, and I think the move is just to go over here, try and complete that monastery, because the worst that can happen for green is losing yet another meeple. So if we go over here, then we make sure that if red gets the city cap and completes their city, it comes at a price. That they would be completing our monastery as well. We definitely want to avoid the situation where red continues his own city without finishing the green's monastery. But green does not care about meeples at all this game. And here it actually makes a lot of sense. Or at least some sense. The main purpose of this move is not just to be first on this 9-point field, because eventually red will be taking away these 9 points from MTU. Red will be going here, red will be going here. Like, Spaniards tend to use their farmers quite effectively. So the purpose of this move is, first of all, to make red work for it. And actually, MTU is now making it harder for red to do that. He even blocked this square, which is actually quite the accomplishment. But I think the main purpose of this move is limiting the scoring power of this here farmer. If green were not to be careful enough, red could draw a curve and place it over here, adding these 3 cities into his main field. Not something that green would want to be seeing. Yeah, so green is playing this strategically in a very clever way. Once he realized that he is going to get his 3 meeples block, he did everything he could to make sure that that all fields in this game are small. Because the worst thing that could happen is engaging in a big field fight. MTU connects the field, has a lovely 8-point road as well for a blocked meeple, but this is still a great investment of a meeple in this stage of the game, and he can still go over here or over here in the next move and attack the main field. migrack tries to prevent, MTU tries to prevent that from happening, but migrack managing to sneak in right over here. Will he able to draw a tile that fits into the square and completes the invasion? There are a couple of those remaining. I think there's still 1 curve. There's still a Dorito with a road and a couple of crossroads, and by a couple I mean 4. So migrack is definitely connecting. MTU now might try going over here and limit the number of tiles that fit into this square, but I doubt it's worth it with 3 crossroads remaining. So I think as green, we're sort of wanna just accept the defeat on this farm and then maybe try to win through other means, because we do have the scoreboard lead, we still have the ruin, and things are going to get pretty close. And there's some alternatives available. We could go over here, just score 2 points, and then try to score more points whilst also restricting this square. We could just ignore that square entirely. Actually, and there's another alternative. We could go here and score 2 points here. That would be a very sneaky move, because that would be setting up the last remaining butterfly tile to score for this 7-point road. Because the thing is, if migrack gets the butterfly, which they do, they now suddenly get a wonderful city over here. And now the situation for MTU doesn't look very good. Now I think he really has to try and block the square, which is now completely doable. He can now go over here, and then I believe this would be a complete block. Because there's still a curve available, and there's still 2 crossroads that fit into the square, the triple crossroads and the quadruple crossroads, and by turning this tile the city side to the right, he'll make sure that none of those tiles fit anymore. So that would be a nice gain. Alternatively, he could just go here straight away and re-attack the farmer himself. But it seems to me that going here is a bit more worthwhile, and then we're going to try and draw another tile for attacking here. So that's a very nice block here from MTU, just as migrack were about to enter his field. Hi, Ian, and MTU, I think, is going to win this one, because he has no chance to go over here, drop a farmer, and they are still 2 tiles, I think, that fit into the square, if I'm not mistaken. So there's still the triple crossroads, and there's still a curve. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No curves, because I forgot about this one. How about straight lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1 straight line. So if we go over here, that's seems like a good chance to win, because we have 2 tiles to enter, so that's an 83% chance, in fact. Our opponent can't really do much to intervene with that plan. I mean, we will be losing 16% of the time. The reason is that if migrack draws both of these tiles, so both the crossroads and the straight line, which I'm going to double check if that's still there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, one straight line still there. So they can place the straight line here, drop a farmer, and then the crossroads here, drop a farmer and connect. So it will come down to 16% for MTU and 13% for migrack and 83% for MTU and 17% for migrack. Of course, the 83% prevail this time. And a bit of imprecision here from migrack, losing a couple of spread points. So what they should have done, they should have taken this 4-point road, preventing MTU from adding another city to their field. This would have netted the Spanish player 2 more points comparison to the outcome, but I don't think 2 points are going to match her, as the Polish player manages to show how you play a meeple minority. And the points will be counted soon enough. And 14 points is the difference. So really quite the advantage here for the Polish player, and just some excellent spatial awareness. Also, look how vertical was the map. Like, they made such a map that even if I zoom as closely as possible, it doesn't fit the screen. But yeah, of course, these 2 final points didn't matter. So after this move over here by MTU, after his final farmer, he was going to win in 5 out of 6 possible scenarios. So the only way he would be losing is if migrack were to get both his connection tiles and then realize to use them for the connection themselves. So that's quite an unlikely event. Yeah, notice how green won despite red getting himself a 9-point farmer and then completing both of these wonderful cities over here. That's just because the blocked monastery is 8 points, the blocked cities have 13 points, the blocked road is 4 points, and all that stuff just adds up. So that's why when you're blocking your opponent, of course, you really want to take care of that big city, but you need to make sure that you don't forego too much value in the process, because sometimes what happens, you block your opponent's meeples and then you lose anyway. So let's see if the second game is just as spectacular, and so far at least the Spanish player is doing quite alright, because this time they have the scoreboard lead with 10/4. MTU though with a nice tile to try and get himself out of this monastery conundrum. The Polish player, of course, they already got themselves into a bit of a meeple trouble, because this is sort of kind of a sensitive square. There are possible ways out of this. The move that I like best is not this one, as much as I like this one, because migrack is going to go over here and severely disturb the square. The move that I liked most was placing this 1 square higher and starting a new city over here. This would secure all these squares quite a lot. It would set up a Rodorito over here that would also enable green to meeple a road, and as a result, I think it was a miss by green. I just think he just didn't see that spatial idea, but he manages to bail out with a crossroads. So at least this square is nicely protected. There are still 2 tiles that fit into the square for a 75% chance of completion of both the city and the monastery. Upon completion, green will be in all likelihood getting a 6-point road. In addition to that, migrack is trying to really hard to block or restrict these meeples. Look at this move over here, and now at least with this tile he chooses to invade green city rather than block. A wise choice. Migrack with a straight line, probably gonna go here and continue the blocking, which is a good idea, or he might go over here and disrupt his opponent's road. Instead, he makes actually a very good move, chooses to create another attacking platform next to green city, but green drew a city cap and put themselves 1 tile closer to completing the city, and green Now with the quadruple city tile, not your favorite tile in this particular moment. This is the tile that migrack would have loved to place over here and delay green city. Instead, green will be forced to just dump it on this side or on this side. Presumably just connecting the two cities seems best, even though, of course, if we go over here, which is one of our 2 legal moves, well, 3 legal moves, but this is the one move that's sort of reasonable, then this will give back 2 attacking platforms for red. And now I'm starting to think, yeah, I knew that. I said, I'm starting to think if just going over here is not such a bad idea. So it's a very extravagant choice, because normally you hate to be breaking your own cities like this, but I think the plan of MTU is not to turn the city into a ruin. The plan is to actually get 5 more tiles, 4 Doritos, and 1 triple city tile, and actually go for the completion of that city. It's just a very, very long-term project. And I think also another idea is specific to exploiting his opponent's style. Because what if I'm seeing as the Polish player what my opponent is doing, they're trying to devote an extraordinary amount of effort for blocking, even though in many cases it's justified still. That's definitely way more than your average player. And maybe what they want to do, by adding this tile over here and continuing to build up the city, they're just enticing their opponent to spend more tiles and potentially valuable tiles on blocking. But it seems to me that green just didn't quite have the patience to build up their city long term, and they decided to YOLO and add 1 more point to this side, and this exposed a connection platform, which red very much willingly used. And look at red's connection now. Red, of course, connects the 2 cities, and now chooses to rotate this tile in such a way that exposes 2 more connection platforms to the city. And red's intention is to abuse his temporary meeple advantage and try to overrun that city with another invasion. This is exactly what's going to happen right now. This tile goes over here at the bottom, so that was actually a very high level move here by the player with the red meeples, because you can afford these moves exactly when you have the meeple advantage. Now it is green who is forced to try and start some blocking efforts. This move has 2 purposes. It sets up an attacking platform over here and also restricts this square. Oh, it actually completely blocked that square, so all the 3 right-handed daggers have gone out, so nothing fits in this square anymore. Still, red will be absolutely happy with this 12-point ruin or 12-ish point ruin, depending on what connection tile he draws. MTU, of course, is going to try block that square anyway. I think here we saw a bit of a missed opportunity from the Spanish player. With this move, I would have preferred going over here and meepling that 3-point road just to cut some damage from this tile, which will be inevitably drawn by MTU. The reason for that is precisely this sort of stuff. So you see now MTU is able to meeple this 5-point road in addition to completing their city. And if we were, as red, to go over here and meeple this road ourselves, then we would be the one with 5 points. So actually failure to anticipate that city completion cost migrack as much as 10 points, which is a lot in Carcassonne. So if this game is decided by 10 points, then you know exactly where they came from. MTU now successfully equalized the ruin at the bottom. He now has all the meeples in the world that he can play with. And now restrict red's field a little bit, but the main purpose, of course, is to score 3 points. Migrack trying to build up some city to come back on the scoreboard. I also need to know that the one thing that red has going for him is the control of the main field for 15 points. But the thing with field points is that they're not set in stone. It's always possible to invade a field. Well, not always, but frequently. And in this case, the field is pretty shut, but there are a couple of invasion squares available. And let's see if mtuu takes advantage of them. But the thing here is that the Polish master has enough of a lead on the scoreboard that he probably won't even need to invade the field. So that's why the situation will be quite difficult for migrack. Not only does he need to score enough to catch up on the scoreboard and make sure that his field is even enough to put him over the edge. If that ever were to happen, then the Polish master will still have a couple of options to attack the field closer to the end of the game. We can see that the field is growing bigger and migrack is scoring a little bit, now only 17 points down on the scoreboard. But a consequence of growing your field bigger is more invasion platforms. So now he takes even more points on his field, and the field is absolutely fantastic, but now there's a platform over here, there's a platform over here for invasion. And there are potential of other marginal invasion platforms through here or through here, which are all blockable. Here, I'm only talking about unblockable invasion platforms. Well, actually, it's not that unblockable. Look how the splitter tile was drawn by migrack. He would have loved to place it over here, but a couple of moves earlier, the Polish master anticipated that and took care of that option, blocking that square, not allowing red to draw a meeple and get a meeple back. Hi, Afonso, saying that meeples are overrated. I completely agree. But actually, the Polish player's playing style is such that they probably treat meeples as dispensable way more comparison to your average master. There was one stream, I forgot who they were playing against. I think they were playing against Viv, actually. It was in the World Team Carcassonne Online Championship. I think it was a group stage match. And I remember that that mtuu made a move that scored a 3-point road with a horse tile and also blocked their own monastery early in the game. And the purpose of that move was just to score some points and deny your opponent the opportunity to score points. So he just sacrificed a whole meeple for a couple of points. And I remember that my guest at that time, that was the former world champion Arpad Gere, really disliked that move. But it ended up actually working quite well for mtuu, who won that game. And also I find that these tiles where you just place your meeples everywhere and treat them as expendable, they're certainly the most enjoyable to watch. And very often these moves are just correct. This is just sort of mathematically your best chance of winning the game. I'm not sure if that's the case for every single of the extravagant Polish masters move, but in a lot of cases he's getting really a lot of compensation for his lost meeples. Well, will you look at that? Green decides to drop a farmer and another farmer. So apparently migrack had enough stuff on the scoreboard. Now migrack is going to not going to reinvade the field, really? Really? I mean, of course he wants to block the city a little bit, but why not reinvade the field? He could have done that already before. What's the deal here? Because the Polish players now... Why would you do that? Wait, does that work? I don't think it does. I'm confused. Wait, maybe that works. So this meeple over here, it's so interesting. I mean, he gets the 8-point monastery. The field is now equal. But mtuu is threatening to re-enter the field like here. I guess migrack's plan is to make sure that if green invades over here, he will be giving 2 meeples back to red. But I don't think green has to invade. The field is big, of course, but the green is a bit ahead anyway, and so if I'm red, I'm probably just finishing my road and using my last meeple to score a couple of points, and that's it. Because what am I having? I'm having 17 points ahead on the scoreboard. The monasteries are 16, so it is +1. Then we have a road for 4 eventually. That is +5. We have another meeple. We have 3 points over here. We have 1 point over here. That's 4. So that's 9. And red has just a couple more points on this ruin. So it seems to me that the Polish player will be winning without winning the field. He will be equalizing the field, of course, but he won't be going over here to win this field completely. Yeah, so I'm really confused about this here move. Hi, Elias. And also all these moves are played kind of really quickly by the Spanish player here. And I think with the curve tile, even though the win must have been very close to guaranteed for MTU, he will be still calculating if there's the cleanest possible win, and the thing that he'll be calculating is whether he can guarantee himself a field invasion. I think what he'll end up doing is just going over here for a 6-point road and be done with it. Or he might want to maybe drop a farmer here and see if he can draw one more monastery to connect, which still exists. Of course, the Spanish player might just have to go here and block that invasion. But I assume this is just for fun, right? Because unless I miscounted, then green should have enough points to win this. migrack gets the blocking tile. And this field connection becomes not possible. So what's the final score? The 2 monasteries will certainly be a nice addition to red's scoreboard, but not quite enough. This ruin is worth 9 points, which is something that's nice to have, but in the end 3 points short, and this is something that MTU had calculated. Yeah, the extra 3 points come from this farmer. Oh, 6 more points, okay, because this farmer over here, which ended up not connecting to the main field, but still having himself a little piece for this city over here. Yeah, so this move was just for a show, trying to eliminate the emotional damage, and in that the Polish master was unsuccessful, but he was successful in the thing that matters more, which is winning this match. So a very quick 2-0 from the Pole, and migrack will need to win some more matches if they want to qualify. Well, at least the good news for the Spaniard is that they have already won 1 match against Leo da Vinci of Portugal. So losing to the rating favorite of the group is not such a big deal, because most of MTU's opponents will end up, well, I mean, most of migrack's direct competitors for a playoff ticket will end up losing to the Polish master anyway, so that will be a bit a wash, and then we'll see how MTU plays against, I know how migrack plays against Pyro and Kissimo. This would be his main rivals for qualification. Hi, Nicholas. Thank you for confirming that we have a bit of some intel for our next match we're going to see in just 20 minutes. Hi MTU, congratulations on your win. It was quite spectacular, especially the first game, like managing the meeple minority. That was very nice. I always like how it's always spectacular to get all your meeples blocked and then win anyway. We figured out that the last move was for content just by the timing tells, and we also managed to count the points. I would have just taken the 6-point road, but content moves are preferable, especially if they have the same chance of winning the game as the alternatives, and in this case that chance is 100%. I actually also want to point out that this move was not a 0-point move, it was actually a 1-point move because it forced migrack to use this tall hair for blocking, which he otherwise would have used over here for equalizing his little city to the slightly bigger city of MTU. So even this guy earned a bit something like 1 point, the 91st point, or rather, was earned by this guy. Well, anyway, yeah, Andres is saying only 35 minutes for 2 games. Honestly, I didn't expect that. I thought that this would be sort of like an hour match, and then we would be moving straight away to the match at 1900 UTC, which is the final of the Belgian, not the final, but the semi-final of the Belgian Championship. But I guess what we're going to do now, we're just going to have a bit of a break, and I think that we can analyze one other CCL game. I have a particular game in mind that I want to have a look at, which is the match that happened an hour ago between Samuelson of Ukraine and who is the other master? We're gonna look that up in a second. Yeah, so we're gonna do that, and then at around 5 minutes before 7, we'll start to focus on the semifinals of the Belgian Championship, which, for those of you who are just joining, is a completely different tournament, has nothing to do with Carcassonne Champions League. It just happens to be happening at the same time, but at a very convenient time between 2 Carcassonne Champions League matches, so I figured that I would just cover everything in one big stream here. And then after the semifinals of the Belgian Championship, we will be going back to Carcassonne Champions League, where 8 p.m. UTC battle between the reigning silver medalist of the Carcassonne Champions League, Vivian Charlot, with the screen name Viv, will be playing Bogdan Kurkan, who is my frequent special guest with the screen name Game Over. I'm sure most of you are familiar with these players. And then after that, we'll take in a lengthy break, and then in a separate stream, I'm going to get myself a special guest. 22:30 UTC, our main match of the week, the 2023 world champion Matt Tucker will be playing against the Japanese master Koki Yamaguchi. Alrighty. So what's next for us? Scoreboard updated. So I want to have a look at these here players. A port guard against Samuelson, of course, the Vietnamese master. Are they still playing? No. Samuelson's already playing Terraforming Mars. And then the implication would be, does this mean that they lost or not? Because typically if I lose a match, I like to then play a couple of casual games to sort of give myself a bit of a consolation prize. And just finish the day with a win, maybe. So who ended up winning? No, Samuelson ended up winning, and then I guess they rewarded themselves with another game. Isn't that interesting? So look at this. We have, first of all, Port Guard actually won the first match, the first duel, or the first game. No, the first game. Actually, the concept of duels doesn't make sense in individual championship. And then Samuelson here with a bit of a comeback. And I think let's just have a brief look at the decider to see what happened there. We're not going to do a very deep analysis unless we really have some really outrageous moves. Let me also get my tile counter. And away we go. So this is the match that happened like an hour ago. Four points for the Vietnamese player. An already interesting move for Samuelson, going for the road instead of the city. Not something that I would have done, but it ends up... Whoa! So look at this. I didn't expect that, but apparently blocking is very much the mood of the Friday. We can see that migrack really blocked his opponents a lot, and also this move over here from the Ukrainian, not something that I expected necessarily. Yeah, the standard move here is just to clean off a new city cap, but let's see if going all out for the blocking works out for them. Well, not initially, as the city cap is cleaned off by port guard, and it is the Vietnamese player who's getting the points. So, and Vietnamese player is getting more points, but Samuelson immediately invading. Quick points for port guard. Now let's see how conservative the Ukrainian master is. Will they just finish a 4-point city, or will they go over here or over here and try to invade that city? I would probably go for the invasion if I'm the Ukrainian player, but they chose the more conservative route. Still a bit down on the scoreboard, and the invasion is organized by the Vietnamese player, who is now looking to draw a combo of a Dorito, a triple city, and double city caps. Samuelson finishes a city, doesn't drop a farmer, to my slight surprise, but they kind of figure that they're going to need some meeples to fight for the cities. And port guard does go for the farm, but they also decide to limit the monastery spot. That's actually a really interesting placement, because black in theory could have a monastery tile in hand, and they're taking that opportunity away from them. So very defensive placement. Black does manage to connect the to the city and deny port guard all these juicy points, but a city cap for the Vietnamese player will make sure that they're trying to get their own 8 points, unsuccessfully so far. But a second farmer from the Vietnamese player, and it's really double-edged. So the farmer looks decent, but because of this tile, the field is really covered up, for better or worse. For better, because it's difficult to invade that field, but for worse, because the potential of this field is restricted. The anticipation here is that red wants to get a city cap and finish his city, and this would not only give him 8 points for a scoreboard, but it will give him 3 extra points for this field, and maybe open some green squares for further expansion. But what could happen in this situation, black could get a Dorito tile or a triple or quadruple city tile and go over here and try to equalize and try to create a big battle for a ruin, which would not only limit this field, but this would put red into a long-term meeple minority, because red committed on so many fields. And then with that big ruin, black could potentially win the game. So let's see if this scenario is what happens. And black goes for the monastery. No, port guard does get his city, and he even gets some further chances to develop the field with another city cap in his field. But still a secondary field here brewing, potentially for the black player. Let's see if he goes for it, and he does not. That is very interesting. Port guard does not go for the third field, goes for the road, but it looks like this is where he's getting his meeples blocked. It's an incredibly annoying move for Samuelson, for red to deal with. Of course, he's now trying to save his meeple, but there's already only one tile, well, only 2 tiles left into the square, and Samuelson manages to draw the penultimate tile that fits there. So it does look like this road meeple will be lost. He's now trying to put some further pressure on both red city and red's road. Red tries to escape it whilst also building his own city. Maybe having his meeple blocked will actually not be such a big deal, because red is still ahead on the scoreboard. In the meantime, red keeps building up his monastery while also scoring road points. Black, rather. Now red gets a new city. Black of... Ooh, that's a really nice move. Black tries to block it completely. And at the start of the game, this would be a bit too ambitious. But now, with only one tile remaining in the square and a tile which red already needs here, that's actually a very strong block. And it also limits the potential of this field if successful. And it just so happens that on the very next tile, Samuelson draws his starting tile. So now this square is blocked, this square is blocked, but also these fields are blocked, even though they still give points to Port Guard. He still has 4 meeples, which will be trapped where they are until the end of the game. And the Vietnamese player is still ahead on the scoreboard, and they have a healthy 3 meeples to play through. Samuelson is trying to quite extravagantly build his city over here, but with 4 tiles still fitting in this square, that actually works quite nicely. Let's see if Port Guard chooses to equalize that city, and they don't. They instead try to block that meeple indirectly by adding a tile over here, but I'm not necessarily a fan of that move because it kind of restricts this field. I think as the player with the red meeples will really want to take advantage of that square, maybe get a city splitter or a vanilla city cap. Both these tiles are still available, and then turn our 6-point farmer into a 9-point farmer. Because yeah, now the scoring machine is turned on as Samuelson's getting 2 extra points and setting up another monastery spot, and he gets the monastery. So that's why it was so important to set up with 5 monasteries still in the deck. Now Port Guard tries to limit those monasteries a little bit, but I think a bit of a missed opportunity, probably as the play with the red meeples. I would have preferred a farmer here, because it puts just the same type of pressure. Actually, no, as red, I think I would have just preferred to develop my field. It's difficult to recommend something when you just have so few meeples, but maybe just going over here was the move potentially. Still, the effort makes sense. There is only 1 dagger remaining, as we can see, that fits into this square. So if we get a straight line, we get to block Black's monasteries, and that would at least delay the scoring onslaught. Both players don't get defense tiles or attacking tiles, but yeah, by the way, this is the stuff that I was talking about. So this move by Samuelson, it makes sure that this meeple is still technically alive and it can go over here. Also, in some cases, he can actually draw either the vertical splitter tile and then go here and complete an independent 10 or 12 point city if this square gets blocked, or he can just get a triple city tile and then a diagonal splitter to get himself a 6-point city. And in the process, this really blocks up the 6-point field of Port Guard. So that's why I really would have loved a field development over here. But again, like, can't necessarily blame him for trying to block that square, just because it will give Samuelson so many points. And a very interesting move from the Ukrainian. He's now trying not to go here and score points like this, which is probably what I would have done, but he places it 1 square to the left, creating an attacking platform against Port Guard City, which actually makes a lot of sense, starting a new monastery of his own, and making sure that if Port Guard does draw one of the 5 curves that go into this square and block the critical square over here, then at the very least he's getting 1 monastery point compensation. Given the fact that there were still a couple of vanillas available in all these tiles, I probably would have still preferred this move over here. But Black decided that he actually does not need all these meeples necessarily. Black now trying to break Red City, which is why as red I would have probably gone over here, trying to cover it up a little bit more thoroughly. We still have 8 minutes until the championship, and I think it should be enough to go through this game. So some blocking moves, and look at that move. This is just so annoying to deal with if you're a Vietnamese player, because now your square here is all but blocked, your square here is sensitive, and black managed to secure his monastery. He's now very close to recovering a bunch of meeples with a bunch of points. Port guard, of course, gets one of his meeples back. Still ahead on the scoreboard, though, Samuelson with 4 quick points to respond. Port guard manages to block this square, at the very least blocking this square completely. That's very nice, and also restrict this square towards 50-50. So he did get his accomplishment. Samuelson trying to create a disturbance over here. Not something that the player with the red meeples can defend. A new monastery for the Ukrainian that certainly looks incredibly menacing. Now Port guard trying to protect his city a little bit here. I actually agree. Normally I don't like moves like these because they're kind of putting all eggs in one basket. Because by making this move, you're sort of covering up your city and you're saying that you have to complete it in order to win. And there's no chance of developing this city later if it turns out to be a ruin. But in this particular position, with few tiles remaining, it's actually a good move because it sets up using more city cap over here. And also, for developing a potential ruin, there are really not that many tiles remaining. In fact, there are only 2 tiles and they're worth a combined 3 points. Okay, technically 3 tiles. You could also use this one. This one doesn't count because it can always be used for scoring roads. So then there is really not a lot of value in keeping that square open, and there's definitely more value in actually trying to draw the dagger tile and get a more significant lead in the scoreboard. Port guard gets himself more monastery points and some green squares for field expansion. Still a couple of city caps only that are remaining, and one of them is drawn by Samuelson. Yeah, you see, now it's kind of a bit too late to expand the field, simply because there are not a lot of city caps remaining and they're needed by red in other places. Over here, by the way, the splitter still works. So, yeah, Samuelson just starts a new city himself. I probably would have went ahead and would have gone ahead and dropped a farmer there. Port guard decides to just drop a monastery, but I don't think I agree. I would have preferred this move, maybe? Just dropping a farmer. Just because this field is actually quite valuable. It's going to be worth 9 points upon the completion of this guy. And it's also make sure to cover up that square. And you still have plenty of city caps to use to recover your meeple. But instead of blocking move like this, Port guard still trying to block. And now a splitter tile for Samuelson, a crucial draw for the Ukrainian, as these are 6 easy points. Port guard can't do really much. Does get the city tile, which does not score him. Gets another quadruple city tile, which I think actually here makes sense because he really wants to be getting his meeple back soon enough. And the reason why he's not blocking this square, I think he has calculated that he wants to get the dagger tile, and that's his only realistic chance to win. And I think I can suspect what actually happened here in this game. Yeah, so Samuelson indeed with the dagger tile will be taking care of business here and dropping a farmer. And look, he actually didn't even bother to finish his city just because he wanted to finish the monastery and have that tempo for the farm. There are also multiple curves available over here to finish 2 more monasteries and meeple the road. So the correct choice here for the Ukrainian. And Here comes the move. He even gets 2 meeples back, so he won't even use them. And the final 6-point field. For Samuelson, make sure that his farmers are almost as good as Red's farmers. Yeah, so very difficult game here for the Vietnamese player. I don't think I can point for like really obvious mistakes from both sides. Overall, actually really well played game. Samuelson managed to draw a lot of monasteries and just make sure to keep to the leads that was created by those monasteries, and there's really nothing much that the Vietnamese players have done. They did set up this dagger tile and just ended up not drawing it, so you could say that the game was decided by this. I still think that based on the score difference, if Port Guard were to complete this city, then in some scenarios Samuelson still wins just because he has a bigger field and he would be completing this monastery on the left in many of those cases. But yeah, if one tactical mistake that I want to point out, maybe that was this tile over here that enabled the city to get blocked in the first place. Had Red gone over here, then Red would not have gotten blocked. They would have finished a 12-point city a bit earlier. They would not have allowed another monastery spot for Black. So maybe this move turned the other way would have given them a lot of a fighting chance. Typically, the heuristic here is that you want to keep your low-scoring cities open so that they're not restricted, but you want to keep your high-scoring cities, and this one definitely counts as a high-scoring cities, more covered up so that your opponent cannot invade. Denying your opponent an invasion is more important than denying your opponent some sort of block. Well, here the block is what happened anyway, so keeping that city open just ended up not even maturing. And now it's 1900 UTC, and we're about to witness a completely different tournament. This is the Belgian Carcassonne Online Championship, the semifinals between CraftyRaf, that's Raf Misotin, whom you know very well, and the player with the screen name Carcharoth 9, who happens to be maybe a lesser known player for the Belgian team, but they have been on the Belgian national team a couple of times at the World Team Carcassonne Online Championships, and they're the one who actually have the greatest Carcassonne accomplishment in the history of Belgium, I would say, which is the 3rd place at the World Championship in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. So yes. And yeah, finally got. So the full anyway, just got a little bit caught up. 2016, yes, indeed. Anyway, let's see if their match is starting. It is going to be your usual best of 3 formats, except that we're playing with longer clocks here, which is always fun to commentate on. And we see that both players are equally matched. So Raf, definitely the more well-known player between the two, because also a YouTuber. He has his Intuition training series. At least that was my favorite of his videos, and he has covered a lot of international tournaments as well in his streams on some other streaming platforms. And alrighty, so Carcharoth with a curve here. Let's now try making sense of this position. A couple of tiles have been played, nothing much has yet happened. Crafty with green meeples. And Carcharoth, who is Vansina. Or Vansina. I'm not sure about the stress on his name, is playing with the red meeples, but it is Crafty who is the first to get on the scoreboard in this game, immediately followed by his opponent who scores 6 points and starts a new city. Scoring tile for Crafty here, probably going to use it here to go for 2 points and disrupt 2 roads of his opponent at the same time. This will be annoying, this will be annoying. Looks like a very good tile for, I want to say, the Belgian player, because I typically very often refer to the players for, based on their country. But here it doesn't work because both players are Belgian. I've just gotten so used to streaming Carcassonne Champions League, so I might misspeak like this several more times. Oh, thank you, Nicholas, in the chat for confirming actually an interesting fact that in their previous encounters, Vannes has won more games than Raf. To be honest, for me, like it's kind of difficult to believe that anybody has more victories against Raf in Belgium. This certainly, because at least like in terms of his knowledge of the game, because he covered so many championships in his streams, you're just bound to pick up a few things. I've also noticed myself, I actually learned quite a bit by streaming matches. Well, first of all, because I see high-level Carcassonne so often, and also because even if the games are not so high-level, then because I'm forced to explain things with words, I'm forced to put things with words, then it just helps me understand the concept a little bit better. I've also heard a similar story from Sunny Cheng, who is known as Sunny369, who recently became, well, the reigning World Azul champion, who recently also became a Carcassonne master. And they also said that they did so after making a bit of a Carcassonne guide for beginners in Cantonese or a text like this. And then, as a result, they said that they started to understand Carcassonne concept better themselves. Yeah, but in fact, this is Carcharoth who has the historical advantage here. I wonder if this will mess with Raf psychologically or not. And, of course, third place at the World Championship is an achievement that many can still dream of. But in this particular game, Raf is still slightly ahead and has the superior position overall, so 4 points on the scoreboard are nice. The early field control are nice. The soon-to-be-finished 4-point road is nice. For Red, this road, which is sticking into a shared city, not so nice. Still, we can deal with this, but it's not something you're very happy with. This city over here, very nice. Some great chances to get quick 18 or even 20 points with a bunch of shields. CraftyRaf's now trying to block Red's road unsuccessfully as Red immediately draws a defense tiles. Now both players start to play their top equity moves a bit quicker. Now here, a bit of a rush from Carcharoth. I think it's an okay move. But with 20 minutes on the clock, I would definitely have fought here for a long time. So there's some advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage of this move is that it scores only 3 points, and it also adds an extra potential to Green's field in the long term by getting all these green squares here. But the advantage of this move is that it scores 5 points. Both of these moves give a bit sort of control the city cap of Green. The disadvantage, of course, is exposing your own city to a block by placing a monastery over here, and this is why red chose not to do this. But the main disadvantage of this move is the fact that we're now forced to use a valuable city tile into what's going to be a shared city. That's typically not the way how you want to develop your monasteries, but now that we look at it, some solid 5 points. Also now an interesting way to build up Red's monastery whilst also disrupting the field, because eventually all these squares will be nicely covered up. But Crafty actually already has 9 points on the field, 14 extra on the scoreboard. I don't think he really needs to develop his farm any further to justify his meeple, and probably Vannes will need to invade this field at some point if he wants to equalize Raf's advantage, but before doing so, he will need to get some meeples back. So some moves that I'm thinking is maybe drawing a city cap like Raf just did, dropping a farmer over here, and then maybe getting a Dorito with a road, getting a 4-point road and a meeple back, and then maybe at least trying to threat the completion of that city, which is nowhere near impossible. We can get a Dorito with a field here, a Dorito road with Dorito with a road here, whilst also getting some extra road points, like the road for 6 points, which is really nicely going through these squares. And then suddenly there is no platform to connect to this city after these two moves. The only way to connect is to draw a splitter. There's 2 of those in the deck still, but 2 is not that many. And then try to equalize like this. So it is possible that CraftyRaf might have to work quite hard to equalize this city. But look at what's happening here. CraftyRaf's going for a second farmer, also trying to put from this pressure on this city. That's actually a really strong move, because it makes sure that Red cannot finish himself a city whilst also dropping a farmer. He can, of course, finish himself a city, but with no farmer. But I don't think he will be doing that, or maybe I'm wrong. Okay, he does get the city. He just wants to prevent an easy block. CraftyRaf now going at the top, trying to renew the blocking thread, but now Carcharoth with a starting tile. Does he go over here for 4 points, or does he go over here at the bottom trying to run away with the city over here? This move eliminates an attacking platform on this side. He now really wants to draw Dorito tile over here and try to get himself the 20 points for the city. I also need to know that it was actually green who put a tile in this square just to take care of the 6-point road, despite the risk of accidentally helping red complete his city. And with the move on the scoreboard, it's a move that I have to agree with. I mean, overall, both players are playing really well. Crafty now with a curve, thinking of blocking something, but it's not obvious exactly what you block. So you could go over here and block this monastery, and make it much harder to be completed, as there are only 2 dagger tiles that would fit into this square. You could go over here and block Red City with only 1 of that type of dagger, but the downside of that move is that it would be exposing a platform for Red to attack his city at the top. So ideally you want to finish your city at the top first and then attack Red. And option 3 is to start disrupting the bigger city at the bottom, because it is de facto the biggest threat. We could go over here, limiting the number of tiles that fit into this square, whilst also creating an invasion platform from this square, which we could use. Or we could ignore that and maybe just go over here and try to block from this side, trying to limit our opponent towards a starting tile or towards a horse, and block this square. Between these 2 moves, and actually between all the moves, this one seems to be the play, because it has multiple purposes. But a block over here makes a lot of sense as well. But as a result, now Red manages to get a splitter tile and cover up that square, and they're only 1 tile away from finishing their city. Even if they do, green is still going to have a better position, but it certainly will make it interesting. Green's trying to block that square. Red gets a defense tile, and I think this is where we don't necessarily go over here to score 2 points. We might just want to go over here and cover up our city. Or maybe not. Because in fact, if we do cover up our city, there will be only 3 tiles available to finish the city. And that's why red goes over here. Green decides to start a new monastery for 7 points. A strong move, but immediately gets restricted by Carcharoth. Still 2 starting tiles that fit into this square. I presume that Crafty might want to continue his block, leaving only 2 dagger tiles that fit into that square. That certainly would be quite the restriction. Hi, P-chan. Yeah, thank you for pointing out, Nico, that it is indeed a bit odd that Raf is not playing with his usual black meeples. Maybe a strategic plan to confuse his opponents, because green meeples are the most annoying ones to play against. But you know what's more annoying to play against? Your opponent's completing 20-point cities. And this is exactly what Vannes does. And for the first time in the game, the veteran Belgian player is ahead on the scoreboard. Still, green has a fantastic position because of their field control. This field is very difficult to invade, and technically these are still 2 separate fields. So these cities are being scored twice, once from this meeple in the north, once by this meeple in the south. But even if the cities are unified, then it's a perfectly fine investment of 2 meeples. Carcharoth now with a city cap. Let's see if they go for a consent move. I really hope they do. I'm not sure if that's the best move or not, but the move that I'm thinking, of course, is that we go over here and we try to invade that city, and we get another city cap, and we get the road Dorito. So instead he opts to go for the boring move, and maybe the better move actually, to just start a new city and potentially create a counter field. But of course, his road is now still vulnerable, and green manages to draw the last dagger that would have fit for this square. So this meeple is now deceased, and green's next order of business is to go over here with a curve like this, making sure that this square is also blocked. So Carcharoth will really need to defend. Yeah, and that's why maybe like with this move, yeah, but I guess like if we invade this square with the city cap, then this square next to the monastery is vulnerable. So maybe an option, yeah, you know what we should have done? With this tile, just go over here, add yourself a monastery point, set yourself up to complete the monastery, because as we may have learned from the previous match, meeples are overrated, but, you know, like, meeples still have some value. You still need meeples to score points. As Crafty just now keeps developing his field and chooses not to block this monastery just yet. I think you could have gone over here, now had these wonderful extra points, and then we would have still left the chance to go over here and actually take over that city. Raf now with the splitter chooses not to block the square, chooses just to go straight for the points. Carcharoth manages to finish an 8-point city, but so does Raf with the splitter and gets himself a 3rd farmer in the process. It looks like it's about to become quite a heavy defeat for Carcharoth here, as Crafty takes the time to count up the daggers and realize that this square is now fully blocked, so the monastery meeple is not coming back for red. Now red really needs to work hard to save that square, but he also needs to score. So what do? Do you just go over here, drop a 6-point farm, or do you just go over here and start a 5-point monastery? But then this city becomes vulnerable. Probably I still want to go for the monastery just because I really need to score. And there's some chances to try and score efficiently, like maybe we can get a city cap like this and a Dorito like this, like something like that. And that's why he goes for it, just realizing how difficult his position is. Crafty with a tile which will hurt Carcharoth quite a lot. Is thinking between two moves, either going over here and starting the restriction of the monastery, or the superior move of going over here and delaying the development of Carcharoth city. That works well because he does not need to worry about red drawing a splitter and saving his city because no splitters are in the deck. Look, all both splitters are at the board. So now I was going to say the Belgian player, but the player who doesn't have any meeples will be forced to use a Dorito tile over here and a city tile over here just to try and build up his monastery. And he first of all takes care of this square. Now he'll be looking for city tiles. Raf in the meantime tries to invade Van Nis's city at the top, just to not allow him easy points and a meeple back. Carcharoth with a starting tile. Oh, Raf with a starting tile. Wait, what? No! What was that? Why is Van Nis finishing Raf's monastery? I think we are entering the age of cooperative Carcassonne here. So, you know, why play against your opponent when you can help them? Of course, I understand the reason for this move. The reason for this move is to score 5 points and to try and unify the field, because now these two guys are together and they're scoring once and not twice for these two cities over here. But you're adding a monastery point to your opponent and you're giving them a meeple back. So because of this monastery point, you're only gaining 5 rather than 6, and you're giving them a whole meeple. So you tell me, what's worth more, 5 points or an entire meeple? A meeple is worth more. Crafty, in the meantime, manages to completely block that square, so for the rest of the game, it looks like Van Nis will not be getting meeples back, and Crafty should take care of business with all his scoreboard leads. Well, maybe I'm calling this a little bit too early, as technically red can still get a meeple back with the last remaining road Dorito. But even if that happens, only 4 points will be the score. Crafty gets another 6-point field for himself. And maybe he'll be going here just in case to block that square. Or maybe here to make it a bit harder to add 1 more monastery point. Crafty can probably pre-finish the city. That makes a lot of sense, and it looks like the last tile of Carcharoth will be this Dorito with a road, so too late. They will get their nice 2 points, but upon recovery on the meeple, they can't use the meeple anymore. So yeah, tough game for Van Nis here, as Raf did get a couple of city caps early on and then just clung to his lead. Or clang. Cling? Clang? He clanged to his lead. I think that's how you say this. By just dropping farmers and farmers everywhere, and there's really not that much that red could have done. I think maybe, so certainly this city was a nice comeback plan, which sort of kind of works, but red needed something else, and maybe the idea was to actually go over here with a city cap, try to get his monastery meeple back, and then maybe even at least threaten an invasion over here. So This seems like something that would have given a bit more fighting chance, especially since the difference is not that great, only 11 points, so something that you can make up for with an extra meeple and some quick points. Alrighty, so I'm going to update the scoreboard in a second as Raf gets his first points. If he wins the second game, the match is over. If Vannes wins the second game, we will be headed to a decider. Oh, the players abandoned the second game. This is because the order of players was wrong. There are some just difficulties with Board Game Arena. If you want to set up a fixed time control with 22 minutes per game and also have the correct starting player for each game, that's kind of a tricky combination to deal with. Some of my viewers will know the details, and CraftyRaf, the first to go here, takes the 4 points immediately. Carcharoth starts a new city. I would have preferred the other location because this city this gives back a potential 6-point road with a bunch of curves. Crafty, of course, breaks that chance whilst also attacking this city a little bit. So I guess sometimes you don't want to go over here. Actually, no, you really want to go over here. I think the reason why green didn't want to go over here... Oh, they switched colors this game. That's kind of annoying. Well, anyway, now Raf is playing red. So Raf and red both start with the same letter. At least that's a bit easier. And Carcharoth's playing with green. But yeah, normally with that starting tile, you want to go here. Just because after this, if your opponent's red draws something like a Dorito tile, it's just difficult to start a new city in a good place. But this ends up not matching in any case as a series of regular city cap. It was Raf's draw. Raf now has 8 points. Now start a new city on the left, also trying to put some indirect pressure on this square over here. The plan is to draw a big city tile and then obstruct this square, given the fact that there are only 2 starting tiles available that would fit there. A more standard move probably would be just to go over here and go for a direct restriction. But then had Raf done this, this would have given back a nice 6-point road, so not something that you want to be doing in this situation. Still gives back a road, but only a 4-point road. And now Raf gets a road of his own, whilst also obstructing this city square over here. This is great news for him because it actually helps him defend his city. So now, of course, Carcharoth goes here and tries to restrict this square, but this also makes sure... Okay, yeah, I can get that idea. This also makes sure that this square is relatively safe, as I was going to say, because before that move, there's no way how green can place a tile here productively and try to block further, because he would be exposing a block against his own square. And now green is making an interesting move, trying to start maybe some huge city over here. And actually that's really, really interesting, because the thing is that Raf can't block this square without adding a tile to green city. And now also Raf decided to defend this square to connect his 1-point city and Carcharoth's 5-point city. And green here kind of tries to fight hard to mess with red's new city, but unsuccessful as an invasion tile is immediately drawn. And look at this, Raf's playing with fire here. I kind of like it, but he's now starting a new field for 9 points. The score is 18-0, and Carcharoth, I think, now is in a double-edged position. So the good thing for Carcharoth is that he has this wonderful city which he can complete. The bad thing is that it can still be invaded. And sort of when Raf plays this tile over here, his bet is that he'll be able to invade the city before it gets completed. Which is why as Carcharoth, probably I would have preferred him to try. Like with this meeple, I would have just loved to move here, restricting your own city meeple, but just really going all out for the construction of this guy. Turns out it would not have worked, and I think now, well, Raf doesn't care. He wants to just make the top equity move, you know, finishing a road, starting a new city, and he delays the invasion at his peril. But now a great tile for Raf, and I don't think he's going to invade the city. Actually, I don't even think he has to with a 22-point lead. I think the move here is to go over here, score 3 points. Yeah, he recognizes that he has, of course, all the board vision to do that. Also, characteristic of chess players, which he is 25-0, and now a chance to block not one but two meeples of green. Tough situation for Vanness. Crafty's probably going to go here, limit the number of tiles that fit into the square to only 2, and also have a slim but non-zero chance to block both meeples. If the only way to do this is to draw the last cow tile that fits into that square. Crafty gets himself a 6-point city and leads 31-0. Carcharoth, of course, trying really hard to cover up here. Now decides to cover up, but I think here, oh, actually that was super wise because he would have lost this his meeple anyway. Yeah, CraftyRaf would have gone over here and blocked 2 meeples, but I think as Carcharoth, given that I'm so far behind, I would have actually tried to draw a road Dorito tile specifically. Maybe a bit too ambitious. Yeah, because now CraftyRaf was just able to invade the city 1 tile before its completion. So certainly quite unfortunate. He's now trying to re-invade. And I think that his entire game on the city, which is what they should do, but I think as Crafty, you just leave that city alone, let your opponent complete it, and then you're still slightly ahead. Also, like 31-0, I don't remember seeing many games which start with 31-0 on the scoreboard. Of course, it's not completely 0 because Carcharoth has 2 points for this city over here. And, I mean, this road which could be completed. This road is actually pretty good. Crafty is now starting a new field. Carcharoth is trying to invade here. Which makes a lot of sense, actually. So they're really going all out for city building. Then the plan is to draw, I think, Dorito. This is the most likely pattern of the city completion. It goes for a city cap, which of course allows for a re-invasion. As Raf, I think we actually ignore that. We really want to be just building up our points. And also, I think at this point, part of my decisions here as red will be defined by the aesthetic factor, because it's always nice to see that 35-0 next to the scoreboard. So I will be definitely way more inclined to score quick points now, just to have as much of a lead as possible, because it looks so nice. Well, I guess not very nice if you're Carcharoth or any of Carcharoth's fans. Green now gets himself a tile to continue his road, but this also expands what's going to become a shared field. And maybe that's something that Carcharoth is betting on, because once they complete the city, they actually will still be slightly behind. And so then they want to create a big field to fight for, potentially winning that field and 15 extra points. Now, Elias is saying that you would reinvade, right? But I think as Raf, I don't like reinvasion simply because it just makes the city bigger. And then there's always a chance that Carcharoth could reinvade even more and then win. But it looks like we are getting ourselves some content moves. Crafty gets the monastery, which belongs over here, of course, for 5 points, which is a point less than this here move, but is so much better positionally. It has another monastery spot next to it. It controls and immediately threatens Carcharoth's road, and of course it does not complete the field for Carcharoth. And you see Carcharoth now. Oh no, this is like the worst tile in the deck for green. You have to be kidding me. Wow. So you see, green, of course, places a meeple on the monastery, which is what they should do because they anticipate finishing the city soon and ending up and getting themselves a meeple back. But CraftyRaf was the only possible tile that gives him a chance to reinvade the city, and I kind of think he should go for it. So we can go over here, finish a 4-point city of our opponent, and then place a tile over here. There's still a chance, of course, for Carcharoth to go here and reinvade, but given the fact that there's only one, that there are only 2 triple city tiles to reinvade like this, it looks just really unlikely. And immediately CraftyRaf gets a Dorito and negates all of this city building effort. Well, I mean, I donated you a 4-point city, CraftyRaf might say, but this just has to be soul crushing for Vannes, as he was so close. In fact, just here was his city cap that would have taken care of business and really put him back into this game. 46 points is the size of the city. And this would have really made the things equal, but now I'm not even sure what green can do here. Well, surely he can win the fields. That would be nice. But then what? Because the main field is only worth not a lot of points. And by not a lot, I mean 15. He does go for the invasion, which I like, because he's also setting up an option to go over here and then build an 8-point city for himself. Crafty now, of course, should not go here. This is not good enough of a restriction. Instead, he simply tries to get his monastery meeples back. And this is something, probably fieldless wins is one of the main strengths of CraftyRaf. It's part of the game which he knows very, very well. A part of the game which many experts don't, but I guarantee you, like, red is just going to stay out of the field, is going to let green do whatever green wants to do, and he's just going to build his own things. He goes for further monastery stacking, gets himself 9 extra points on the scoreboard, and sure, you want to get yourself a 10-point city? Sure. 18-point field? Whatever. I'm just going to score, score, score. Elias is saying this is the kind of game that tests character. I agree. So as Carcharoth, I'm definitely trying here to just do my best and risk hard and try to cling to that 0.3% chance or whatever it is of winning. He now tries to get himself a meeple back. I think maybe a slight misstep, probably as Carcharoth. I would have preferred to hope for the last monastery and try to go here, but it makes sense to do this and still try and have yourself an invasion-free city platform. Now the last crossroads goes to Carcharoth, who now misses for sure. Well, actually, I think that's okay. So he goes for the field, trying to equalize Crafty's field here, but I think it could have been a bit delayed. Certainly 3 points go a long way when you're behind a lot. I guess their plan is that they will be scoring 3 points anyway if they get a straight line, and that sort of should take care of this. And then their plan... But wait, I think actually Carcharoth's plan should be going over here and then trying to invade like this with 2 meeples at the same time. Or rather, Carcharoth's plan should really be drawing one of the 2 Doritos that Crafty drew. And all that Crafty does is just keep scoring points and points and points. Let's see if they choose to go over here and try and drop an insurance farmer and against this aggressive guy over here. And they might be reluctant to spend their last meeple. Yeah, Carcharoth is still fighting. But they have sped up the tempo a little bit, so it seems to me that in their heart of hearts, they truly believe that their championship is soon to be over. But then sometimes if I'm in these difficult situations, I really try and have the mindset, you know what? Like, maybe these are my last 5 minutes in this tournament entirely. So then let me just try and shine as much as possible. So that'll be my logic there. Crafty with a straight line, presumably he could actually just go for these quick points and then allow Carcharoth to reinvade from this side, just because quick points are nice. This would put them over 100 points within the game. It does not happen very often. Typically, games are like decided. Typically, the winner scores 100 points, you know, at the end of the game when all the field are counted. But Crafty is going to score so much more than that. Yeah, I think you go over here, like 3 points are 3 points are 3 points. This farmer here does not seem to be worth investing necessarily. And this is what he agrees. Also want to point out that blocking over here does not make sense because there is actually a tile that still fits here. And as Carcharoth, probably this is the moment when we're going to go here and invade the 9-point farm, even though it's a valuable... Wait. Actually, there's a stronger move. I think we can go here and take a 6-point farm and then set up another city cap to get more field points. That's actually doable. And then for the 9-point farm, we can fight on the last move after we get a meeple back from completing the city. These are, of course, big ifs, but we really need to hope for the best possible outcome. Carcharoth decides to go for this invasion, which also makes a lot of sense, don't get me wrong. I mean, 9 points are 9 points are 9 points. And I'm now wondering, are there daggers that fit here? And the answer is yes, there is one of them. So then the plan is not only to invade the field, but also get 7 extra points from building up the field. So that's a nice decision here. Crafty, of course, is going to finish his road. It looks like Carcharoth could come close because he has 9 points here for the field. He's going to have 18 points here, that's 27, and then maybe 12 points over here, that's 39. But we need to remember about Crafty's monasteries and roads. This is enough to outrun Green's threats. Crafty instead tries to block... Oh, actually it does block Green's city, or at least restricts it, so that it cannot be finished immediately, because both splitter tiles have gone out, and we remember this moment how they went out very well. Also, all 5 Doritos have gone out, and that we also remember very well. But the perfect tile for Carcharoth, who will now be trying to finish a city like this. Okay, Crafty with another curve will now be thinking whether it makes sense to block this city. I think it does. We're kind of running short on city caps, and I'm not even sure, well, how many city plus field tiles we have. And I think not a lot. Just 2. This is the dagger and this thing over here. Yeah, I don't think there's a way to block this completely, so we probably finish our road? I don't know. I see that there's still one horizontal splitter remaining. And I still see that there is a dagger remaining, this dagger that I was talking about. And of course there's some, no, there are no other options. Oh right, but there are no road tiles. So this block from this side is just utterly devastating. I think it completes... Oh, that wasn't actually a complete block. There was still a chance to draw a Dorito tile and this tile over here that CraftyRaf has. But of course, Carcharoth also needs these tiles to connect over here. Crafty's now thinking whether it makes sense to invade the city. I don't think it does. You could just leave it alone because there are no tiles left to complete the city. Probably what you can do as Reds is just get yourself a couple of points in a variety of ways. Well, I mean, you could just score 4 over here and prepare yourself a 6-point field to meeple on the last turn. You could just finish your monasteries, go over here, and get yourself 2 points for a city whilst also getting meeple back for next turn. You could also go over here, finish your road, start a new city. That's a net 3-point move. So I guess probably what you need to calculate is how to maximize the probability of being able to use a meeple every turn. In Carcassonne, if you can get in that zone of making as many moves as possible that score you points, give a meeple back, and then you get to place that new meeple on a new feature immediately. This is something that is quite valuable and very often unstoppable. Here, of course, it will only matter for the point difference. Raf goes for the move that gives him the biggest number of immediate points, 2 monasteries points, 2 city points, and of course, a meeple immediately going back. Carcharoth with really not great options. The best that you can see is just going over here, taking himself a meeple back. Well, no meeple back. What am I talking about? Just adding himself 2 points and then hoping to draw a tile that completes himself a field connection at the bottom. Or you know what he could do? He could just run down his clock. I'm not sure how about competitive Carcassonne, but in professional chess, in chess tournaments, it's like considered an incredibly rude way to lose. Like if you're 1 move before checkmate, you can just run down your clock and then just annoy your opponent. CraftyRaf takes 4 points for a Rhodes. Elias, of course, was suggesting a bit of a different move, but this actually happened to be the sequence that gives Crafty the biggest number of points. So he found himself a guaranteed 7-point sequence. That's a really strong endgame from the Belgian master here. Yeah, and also the thing about this match, I actually kind of think that Carcharoth played pretty well. And at the start, it definitely made sense to put all his eggs in one basket and try to do this, but that splitter. And sometimes when it happens, it happens. At least I like it that it happens on stream. But believe me, it happens in real life also quite often a lot. So the final score is 134 against 112. Imagine scoring 112 points in Carcassonne and still losing by over 20, but that is the fates of Carcharoth here, and we wish them the best of luck in the match for 3rd place. I believe there's a match for 3rd place, right? And CraftyRaf will yet again be playing in the finals, try to break his many year streak of a lot of second places, and he will be playing either against Fabien Mouton or Tom D. Schmidt. And then we'll find out who exactly tomorrow evening. This is when the second semifinal is happening, and the finals have not yet been scheduled. I assume at some point next week. Alrighty, now it's only 1947 UTC. I'm kind of surprised that both of our today's matches were so short, despite the 22-minute time control. Both players just managed to settle their differences really quickly. And certainly respect to both players for actually trying to be precise until the end of the game. Raf with the precise endgame, and Carcharoth with comeback attempts and city building attempts and field takeovers until the very last moment. Thank you, Nicholas, for confirming that there is in fact a match for third place. Elias is saying that finishing his road and dropping a 0-point farmer was worth 7 points, but I think it was worth 6 because you get 2 points in the first move and you get 4 points on the second move. Like where do you get 5 points on your last tile? We have so many games here open. I think we should start closing them. Migrack still playing apparently. No, not anymore. But they did give himself a couple of Azul games to maybe let their mind rest after the loss to the Polish master. Wait, what was the final position? Nope, not that one, not this one. And no, not this one. Well, anyway, it does not matter that much because this match is over. And in 10 minutes, we are headed to Viv versus Game Over. I suggest that we take a 5-minute break now, and then I'll see you back at 1955 UTC. And we're going to do a bit of a pre-game banter. I wish good things to you who is still watching this, and we are back to continue our marathon stream. Now it is time for the next match of the Carcassonne Champions League. A reminder to you all that we just witnessed a couple of other matches, most recently the semifinals of the Belgian Carcassonne Online Championship, where CraftyRaf, who's also now in the chat, prevailed over Carcharoth 9. Hi Crafty, congratulations on the win. And in 4 minutes, another match is starting. It is already on the scoreboard. It is the only matchup which still shows 0-0. Vivian Charlot with the screen name Viv, one of the strongest players online, with a peak rating of well over 800, will be playing against another strong player from Romania, that's Bogdan Curcan with the screen name Game Over, whom you have seen many times on my channel if you've watched this channel for any extended lengths of time. I think that this game actually should be really close, maybe just 55% edge to Viv because of his experience. And we're gonna see if all that co-streaming and commentating has helped Bogdan to make some surprising moves against the reigning silver medalist of the Carcassonne Champions League. There's really not much further to discuss. I guess since we still have a couple of minutes, I just want to have a brief look at the situation in Group B, which is where the players are. So Viv is currently in 3rd place with 1 victory. Wait, why is he in 3rd place? Wait, why is he? Wait. This is wrong. He should be in 1st place because he won 2-0 in his first match against Lambe. And he lost 0 games, right? So he should be in 1st. I think maybe just the sorting is off. Wait, I'm not sure why that is the case, but the sorting does appear to be fine, because in the other groups, the player who lost 0 games is in fact here. So maybe just a small technical issue there on the website. Yeah, so Game Over did in fact lose their first duel against, I believe it was against Tito Arce of Chile. So they will really need this victory against Vivian if they want to gain one of the top 3 spots, which is what you need to qualify for the next round. Wait. Ah, Islon Lambe 2-0. Okay, so you're probably referring to the game that happened this week. I believe in the standings in this table, the games only from last week's are shown, but yes, the fact Ilya Slonimsky did defeat the Italian experts, I think either earlier today or yesterday or sometimes recently. Well, anyway, let's now see if the players are online. It is 2000 UTC, and that's why the game has started. They're now not playing a fixed time format, they're playing the usual slow time control with 3 minutes of time bank and 45-second increment each turn. And this time Bogdan is the starting player, gets a pretty decent tile to score him 4 points. Vivian responds with a road. Game Over starts a new city, trying to put a bit of annoyance on this road. Green goes all out for the farms trade up. This will be a field where farmers will. This will be a game where farmers matter a lot. And Game Over with not the best tile, the quadruple crossroads, which is used to him to try and equalize this road, but this immediately will be denied by Vivian. Not a huge deal. A losing mini battle of 1 point versus 3 points, but there was really no other decent placement for this tile. Now, Bogdan cleans off another city cap, and he'll try to draw a couple of more and maybe drop some farmers. Not much that Vivian can do over here. He starts a new city off himself, foregoing the 2 points from this road. And the first monastery tile goes for Bogdan, and he has a wealth of options here. And by wealth, I mean 2 realistic options. One is, of course, going over here, which is just the top scoring move initially. The other move was going over here, supporting this city and controlling this city of green. The high scoring move makes sense here. Now a blocking move from Vivian, restricting Bogdan's options here, and at the very least making sure that red cannot get a city cap, finish a road, and draw a farmer. Now red can only just draw a city cap for the sake of completing his city, but this move has another sneaky unintended consequence. It actually now makes it much harder for Bogdan to go here and take this road, which is what he normally wanted to do. The reason why it's harder is because it will expose this square to more danger. But I'm thinking that probably as red, I just want to do that anyway. It's just the worst that can happen is like Vivian gets another road tile and goes over here and forces you to wait much longer for a tile that fits into this square. But even if that happens, we still have a 75% chance of getting a tile that fits into this square, because we will still have 2 daggers available there. Yeah, and that's why Bogdan does this anyway. And this is very interesting. Will Viv actually go over here and sacrifice the 1 point? I think that it's a good idea, but honestly not the worst idea is just to go here and try to complete the block from another side. This, of course, would give red much more time to draw the tile that he needs. And in some scenarios, he can even get a tile like the starting tile, another curve, and a crossroads, and finish himself a lovely 7-point road going through all these squares, or an 8-point road rather. A road monastery for Bogdan, a fantastic tile. I would have gone for the stacking approach. Instead, Bogdan goes for the other approach, which makes a lot of sense, and of trying to protect this square whilst also building up his monastery potentially, and there's still a chance to get himself a road like this. The issue that I have with this move is that it allows something like this. As Vivian, I think a strong move is to just go over here, maybe not now, but maybe later. We go over here, we start a new city in our field, and then we restrict this square toward the starting tile. And the idea behind this move is that it's a delaying move. So it statistically will take red quite a long time to recover both of his meeples, because both of them, the monastery meeple and the city meeple, are tied to this square. And even 25% of the time, red doesn't get his meeples back at all, and in that case, green wins very, very often. So it seems like something that's quite worth doing, because now what Bogdan can do, if he so chooses, he can, for example, now go over here and try to set up a crossroad tile that go into this square, and there are still 3 of those remaining. I'm not sure if I would do that yet. I might just go over here and continue my monastery. But he does go for the crossroads, and of course Viv immediately draws a crossroads. Now only 2 tiles that fit into that square. Viv gets himself a 16-point city. Bogdan with a regular city cap catches up on the scoreboard a little bit, finishes the city. Viv now with a fantastic field meeple looking over here. And he will be building up his field, either directly, just going over here, or indirectly, going maybe over here, and then anticipating this part of the field being connected with the main part of the field through the tile that red is eventually likely to draw. And eventually is like right now. That's a wonderful sequence here for Bogdan. just he must be overflowing in dopamine. Not only does he get to get this meeple back, and eventually this meeple back, also just this nice 2-point road is a bit of extra. Of course, Viv gets this 4-point road as a result, but overall, the Romanian players should be happy. They are 1 point ahead on the scoreboard. They have 2 nice monasteries, albeit far apart from each other. And they're now starting a counter field on the left with some prospect of field unification. Field unification is actually not what you want if you're the Romanian player, so I think his plan is just to keep things small. He's going to start a new city here on the left and then just try to keep himself a 9-point field, because his monastery meeples are tied up here for a long time. So it will be a while before he builds them up and gets the meeples back that you need for a big field fight. And the main field over here is still worth only 12 points. It will be worth 15 soon enough. So maybe as red we can survive without having to fight for the fields too hard. Yeah, so the downside of this move, we can see it now very clearly. It's kind of tricky to build up both sides of the monasteries. Green goes for the farm immediately, and I think we see Green's plan is to actually unify all the fields, and it seems like Bogdan is forced into a field fight. Of course, he has to finish the city, drop a farmer. There's just not much that we can do about this. Viv now gets himself a majority on that field, and Bogdan can now probably just build up his monasteries. Unless you want to go here straight away and drop another farmer, which is also not the worst idea. I really like building up the monasteries first. Maybe at least that square to set up some stacking options. Because if you get a couple of monasteries more, then you can still win this game without the field, even though it looks much harder. Based on the farming positions, despite the 2 monasteries of game over, I believe that Green is the favorite to win this game. It's a really good position for Green. Because even if Red draws a bunch of monasteries, the spots that he has are good but not great. Like this is a 4-pointer available. This is also a 4-pointer available. There's no like 6-point spot. And game over does indeed go for another farmer, making his plans very, very clear. He wants to maintain parity on the field and then as a result win the game because of all these meeples that he has over here on the monasteries and his teeny scoreboard lead. The only main issue that I foresee is the fact that it is easier for Viv to drop more farmers than for Bogdan. So now we've actually eliminated all like realistic platforms. All the other invasion platforms that there are blockable. So for example, if Red goes over here, which they won't do, game over is still going to have 2 tiles that fit over here and then block that square completely. But there is one more potential unblockable platform, and this is this one over here. When you have a city cap pointing outwards somewhere way in the distance in a shared field, it's actually a very strong position because you finish it with a city cap, drop a farmer, and even though there's no direct connection to the main field, you can get either a sequence of back-to-back tiles over here, or you have a sequence of back-to-back tiles on the right. And there's usually not enough time for your opponent, Red, to try and block that sequence on both sides. It's usually exceptionally unlikely, but look at that tile draw by game over. I don't think it's now time to stack the monasteries. Instead, he goes for the 7-point move, which is exactly what you should do over here. He also unifies all the farms on the left, which is also what you want to do as soon as possible. This farmer at the top has not joined, but it still has 2 paths, either through here or through here, and he will be having himself a teeny tiny majority on this field. Viv now with a city cap. Not an obvious choice how to square that. He could just go over here, start a new city, which is something that I like, but instead he goes for the move that I had in mind. With this configuration with the butterfly tile, it actually gives Reds some hope to try and maybe block some invasions, because there is a sequence. Dorito tile and horse tile. But this is no longer the case, as Viv draws a monastery and places it here for 6 points, but still there's some blocking options available. For example, something that would be devastating for the Frenchman is a horse tile over here for 2 points and a double block of the farmer and the monastery. But there are also some other more humane options of equalizing the game from Red's perspective. They could just simply get a curve, drop a farmer here, and equalize Green's farmer through that square. So that would also work just fine. Or even better, they could get a straight line, drop a farmer like this to equalize this green guy, and also block this square because 2 road monasteries have already gone out. But not on this move, as they have a city cap tile and no meeples to use, so they decide to go on the left with some chances of maybe building a little field over here, and the main field's actually not connecting. Yeah, because the thing is, Viviano, of course, very wonderfully drops all these meeples, but it's not guaranteed that the connection here is going to be successful. Now, both players exchange city meeples. This city at the top will now be equalized, so it won't change much. Vivian, now with a cow tile, now looking to try and block this farmer over here, but a great tile for game over to actually get some meeples back and make sure that his meeple there actually does some decent job at scoring. And then also, I think the plan of Red is to draw a curve like this that would block this square, and actually potentially that would keep all the fields separate. Vivian decides to develop his own field. Game over, with a chance to use the cow tile to shape the board to his liking, and he decides to not block the square just yet, but at the very least try to eliminate one of the city caps, limit the potential of this field quite greatly, as this one move takes out 3 green squares. The Romanian now gets a monastery back, and the fields are still not connected, but Vivian now probably going to go over here, but he might choose to go over here to get the equality on the field on the left and also be 1 tile away from actually connecting all the fields. But I'm not sure if that's the priority. Maybe the priority is to go over here to connect these fields first, then to connect everything a bit later, and in the process disturb the monastery. But he decides that going at the top is even better. But this gives a wonderful move for game over. 4 points for the road and a complete block of the monastery, which was still completable before that move. So now it is the Romanian with at least the temporary meeple majority. Vivian starts a new city at the bottom, now threatens to get a city cap and maybe even drop 1 more farmer, which probably he should. So I wonder, as game over, is that the time where we sacrifice points and we use the horse tile to go over here, add 2 points to Viv, but make it much less likely that this city building project is ever completed? Bogdan with 2 minutes on his clock. I think you kind of have to go for it, but instead he decides to go for quick points. Decides to still have some discipline, maybe. Although I'm not sure exactly which way is discipline. It's kind of tricky to assess the position. So before deciding whether to sacrifice points or not, you really need to have a look at how many city caps there are remaining. So first of all, the probability that green completes the city before we're blocking tiles, before they draw the blocking tile. And the second that you have to look at is the impact. Can we actually afford green completing the city? Or are these extra points and one more farmer just an absolutely game-defining feature that we need to take care of right now? This is something that can be much clearer closer to the end of the game. With 20 more tiles, it's a bit harder to assess. My intuition tells me that maybe it was the time to block. And speaking of blocking, Viv now successfully blocks Game Over's monastery to completion, and the patience of the Romanian pays off as he gets a city cap to equalize this dangerous meeple of red and get himself a sigh of relief. Monastery tile for green used to completely block this invasion square, but of course there's always this invasion square on the left, and actually as Bogdan you can definitely try and play this field to your liking. So now I'm thinking, like, do we even go over here? Because maybe as red, there is a way to win this game without the field. Let me think about this. We're 10 points ahead on the scoreboard. And if we have this 9-point farmer not connected to the main field, maybe we can afford to lose the main field. So let's say this gets blocked or something. Then we're going to have ourselves how many points? So 10 points on the scoreboard, 9 here. Let's say these two monasteries equal each other out. That is what? And then we have a 7-point monastery over here. That's 26. Let's say this equals over here. And so eventually what green is going to have is this field over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 potentially completed cities. That's 24. So this actually still puts up a little bit ahead. It puts us a little bit ahead, unless, of course, red manages to get a couple more city caps and develop this field a little bit more. Oh, what a great move here from Viv. So look at the sequence. Bogdan, now not connecting the farmers, he actually realizes that he really wants to keep the field separate. And he even restricted the square by quite a lot. So actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's only one straight line that goes there. So there are chances that Bogdan just simply draws that straight line and then doesn't even allow red to gobble up these cities here. That'll be a fantastic outcome for the Romanian player, and one that's quite difficult to deal with, because with these moves, Viv has really committed himself to a big field. It's very instructive here that red prefers to keep the tension. There are some scenarios where, as red, we have to invade the main field, but there are some scenarios where we have to keep this 9 points separate, just so that this lone meeple does not get eaten up by the big meeple majority that green has on the main field, and also that we don't allow these 2 points being added to the main field as well. And look at Bogdan's move. I'm loving that. The purpose of that move is to make sure that if Viv gets the straight line that connects all the cities here, all the fields here, then he's forced to not only give Bogdan a meeple back, but he also gives Bogdan a long road. The downside, the necessity to stay without meeples for a long time. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Maybe an alternative for game over was just to ignore the square, because with this move over here, Viv made the square unblockable anyway. And then maybe they could just start a new city and try to create threats in other places. And then imagine if as Viv, you draw the straight line, you're kind of forced to go over here, but then we get a city cap and we finish ourselves a 10-point city, which is just what the doctor ordered when it comes to outrunning your opponent on the scoreboard. But you see, the issue with this move is that Viv now has contingency plans. He does not necessarily have to invade for this square. In fact, I guarantee you that he won't. He's now trying to invade through this square, and it's very difficult, or in fact completely impossible to block. There are still 2 tiles that fit into this square, the crossroads and the straight line. The only possible block is that if we get a curve over here as game over, and then we place it over here. But even then, a tile like this could be drawn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wait a second, there are no curves remaining. So this connection is completely unblockable. So this means that Bogdan is not even getting his road prolonged. If Viv gets the straight line, he'll just go over here. Oh, this will end up costing Bogdan quite dearly. So what do you do here as the Romanian? I think you just drop more farmers. Like, what else can you do? You just drop more farmers. Because, wait, it's still not that bad, right? If green goes over here, he's getting himself just a +1 meeple majority. Because red has here 3 meeples like this, and green has 1, 2, 3, 4. And so then this means that game over, you just need to invest 1 more meeple to try and equalize this. It's a big question of where exactly you do this. You could go over here, drop a farmer like this, hoping for a crossroads, or nothing else. Yeah, that wouldn't be probably the best move. I need to also clarify that this is the last tile of its kind. There are no daggers remaining, and there are no curves remaining anymore. So what else do? We could go at the bottom and try to invade pretty much through the same type of tile, except that you get 2 more tiles, and there is still 1 more left-handed dagger remaining that you can use over here to invade like this. So this might be the way to go. And the third alternative is to go over here and invade like this, right? But then we're out of curves, we're out of monasteries, we're out of vanilla city caps, we're out of diagonal splitters, and there's only 1 remaining field Dorito. So you really don't want to be going there with just 1 tile available for the square and 2 different blocking platforms. So it appears to me that the move is just we go over here, try and connect like this, hope that Viv does not have enough time to both block this square, and connect over here. And also, because Bogdan was the starting player, he's kind of the statistical favorite. So whenever Viv has his moves, there's going to be an odd number of unseen tiles from his perspective, which will give Bogdan more moves and a lower percentage from Viv's standpoint to draw the tile that he needs. 19 seconds on the clock, and Bogdan decides to go for it. Viv with a straight line. Oh, I kind of forgot that the starting tile still existed. And it's the question where you go. I guess you do want to connect the farmers. Or maybe not. Wait, is there a way for green to win without connecting the field? Because green has still a meeple to score, and he only has to make up like not that many points. Let's see, if he just goes over here and scores 4 points. Wait, is that enough? Am I crazy? I don't think I'm crazy. So we just go here, we score 4 points, right? We're down -5. And what else? What else? What else? We have 5 points over here, so that's wash. The monasteries are wash, and then Bogdan has 2 points road for here, 7 points for the monastery. That's -9. But then if all the fields stay separate, and this is exactly what Viv is going for, if all the fields stay separate, then this is a wash over here. And what Viv has is just this field. Okay, Viv has the strongest move. I'm going to tell this in just a second. I think the way you win this game, you go here and drop a farmer. And that way you have a 2 in 3 chance. I think. Wait, what's the third tile? So there's this, there's the road Dorito, but basically my point is that because this farm is bigger than this farm, Viv was still winning because these farms here are tied. Red has 9 points here, and Viv has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 completed cities, which equal to 18 points over here. So actually, if Viv just manages to keep the farm separate, he will be winning. All he needs to do is go over here, and then make sure that he wins with several tiles. Well, 2 tiles at least. First of all, if he gets himself a crossroads, then this is the last tile that goes into this square, and so Vivian is not able to, so Bogdan is not able to connect the field. Then Bogdan loses. Then, if Bogdan does connect the field, Viv can still draw the last remaining field Dorito and reclaim the majority on the field. And finally, I need help from the chat. What's the third tile? No daggers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No biggies. Oh, is that just the boring one? It's just the extender. This is actually really bad news for Bogdan, because if the third tile is an extender, this means that the chances of Bogdan winning will be only 33% and not 50%, because he doesn't even have a tile to block this square. You see, if you place the extender over... No. Did I miscount or did Viv miscount? Nope, Viv miscounted with a minute on the clock. And Viv would have won. Man, this is really a botched game from the Frenchman. It's also it's kind of a simple endgame to calculate. Because you see, I guess he was going for reinvasion, but it's a clear miscount. He was thinking there's a road tile left when there clearly wasn't. Or maybe he just didn't see this spot over here. But moreover, even if there were a road tile, Bogdan could still use this tile over here to block the square, or over here. So actually, I mean, it was indeed well, so you see, this move turned a game which was winning 66% of the time into a game which was winning only 33% of the time. So that's just a huge equity miss. And this results into Bogdan getting a walk here. Oh, he will be very happy with that outcome. And a slight upset, and a very deserved extra point goes to Bogdan Korkan in this instance. And also, you know, like, whenever a player makes an endgame mistake, or a blunder in this case, for Viv's caliber, it's really an easy game to solve. Whenever that happens, it always hurts a little bit extra when in the actual tile runout you get the tiles that would have won you the game had you placed the correct move. Sometimes if you don't get the tile anyway, it feels like, well, okay, I'm probably losing anyway, so it's not such a big deal. But this one has to sting. And I'm pretty sure that if Viv just miscounted the tiles and was actually considering the other move and saw the field connection platform, he has to go, whoops, mess this one up. Anyway, happens to everybody. Hopefully it doesn't get too much on the French players' nerves and they can still do their best in their second game. A big part of Carcassonne is just mental composure, the ability to deal with defeats and not get complacent in victory. So the second game will be a bit of a test for both sides, as Vivian maybe is just being a little bit tilted because he's playing a bit more aggressively than normal. Now, there's nothing wrong in me playing this 2-point road. In fact, I might have done that too, but it's not typically a move that Vivian plays. So maybe they're now really trying to punish Bogdan with a lot of scoring early on. But also I need to point out that it's sometimes easier to see endgame sequences from the side. Whoa, look at this. Yeah, Viv is being extremely aggressive here, trying to meeple multiple cities, and there is now one very, very critical square in this position. So Viv could get himself a starting tile that fits here, and then he can successfully finish in 10-point city and a 4-point road. Or Bogdan could just go, not yet, not yet. First of all, we do this. Be patient. Bogdan could get like a cow tile and block the square. Viv gets a defense. I think some patience was in order. Of course, Bogdan can still block. He can go over here, for example. That would be extremely annoying because there's only one dagger remaining that would fit into the square. Instead, he chooses to attack this road on the left, which is not the strongest move. You don't have to block necessarily, but maybe invading this road was a little bit better. Then Game Over now gets a 2-point move over here. But you see, I really like setting up the curve first, because this is something that like Japanese players would have done. They're really, really efficient with the monasteries because the sequence matters a lot. If you get the curve first, then with any tile, and especially with this tile, you get to benefit from a 3-point road. Now you get to benefit only from a 2-point road. And of course, the curve had an more of a benefit of trying to actually set up an attacking square. So yeah, it looks like Viv is getting a bit of a pass here. And probably as Bogdan, I would have still delayed the block and at least try to wait for a couple of moves to draw for a bigger tile perhaps to do this, or for a tile that allows us blocking with tempo as well. Now Vivian continues his road, sort of forcing green to eventually go over here. I would say not now, it's not that urgent. Maybe finishing the monastery was a little bit better, because then we get to maybe build a loop over here. But then also, from green's perspective, we would really hate red drawing some sort of crossroads and covering up their road, making sure that 2 features are ready for retrieval. On the other hand, red still has productive uses for crossroads. Red can use the crossroads over here, for example, to separate his 5-point road from Bogdan's 2-point road. Red's now trying to start a new city. Also, he's trying to prevent a full reinvasion of this road. If green were to draw one of the 2 remaining crossroad tiles, they would have gone over here, taken a couple points for the road, and got themselves a majority on this 9-point road that goes through Red City. Green, in the meantime, with another monastery, something that they should be happy with. They also have a 10-point lead in the scoreboard. Now a nice tile for, I was going to say for scoring, but actually that would be, I think, a bit extra. That would be not the best development over the monastery. Probably as green want to be going over here, building up your city and really putting a lot of pressure against this green square. You could also just go over here and break Red City straight up. You should be feeling good with 8 points extra on the scoreboard. Instead, green goes for the 6 points. Green generally goes for the quick point route a lot, which is something that I can empathize with. It's just that in this particular instance, I thought there were other priorities in the position. Red now gets himself in a bit of trouble as this square, it becomes even more sensitive after green got his meeple back from the city. For example, green could even now go over here and try to leave only one tile that fits into the square, given that both horse tiles are on the board and there's only a third one remaining, but Viv now probably can cover up and leave himself the 50-50 chance of drawing a tile that fits into the square, and that would allow him to complete his city. The only issue with that move is that this is not really the type of tile with which you want to be covering up, because, well, if you go over here, you might still draw the tile that fits into the square, but then you're plugging in 2 road pieces into your city, and then it just makes it much harder for you to complete, because you're going to need multiple city plus road tiles, as several of them have gone out. And with this configuration, with the direct defense, with 1 square on the right, as soon as you get one of those city caps, this immediately exposes another blocking platform against this guy over here. And this direct defense is actually wonderful. Viv now basically covers up his city, and then his plan is to draw the horse tile here and the cow tile here, the other way around. But what Bogdan needs to do, he needs to draw either the splitter tile here to try and block this square, or one of the 2 remaining extender tiles. But it is a bit problematic for green, because green already needs any kinds of those tiles over here. But this here was a fantastic move from green. This is the best possible defense that they could have dreamed of. In the meantime, Vivian manages to finish their 10-point city, but Bogdan still stays ahead with a couple of quick points. Now Viv gets a monastery to equalize Game Over's monastery at the bottom. But the reason why this was such a great move is because green realizes that he needs the blocking tiles over here. So he needs the splitter tile and the extender tile over here. So then this is a way for him to be able to use both the double tile, or both the triple city tile for this square and the double city tile for blocking square. But the more I think about this, the more I start thinking that maybe I still prefer the other move. Because now, if Viv gets the triple city tile first, we're kind of suffer twice. Because first of all, they get to threaten the completion of their city, and then it's harder for us to finish our monastery because they're taking 1 tile away from us. Yeah, so I probably actually prefer the other move, especially since there's still 4 tiles that fit into that square. Yeah, I actually do prefer the other move, even though my first impression that this move was great. But it's not an easy decision to make by any means. Because let's say if we were to place this tile the other way, then if Viv gets himself a completed city, then at the very least we can get ourselves a splitter tile that can develop us a field, get us a monastery meeple back, and all that good stuff. Speaking of monastery meeples back, Bogdan is very close to one, as there's only 1 tile remaining that needs to be placed in this square. And this would give him a monastery meeple back with tempo. For example, he could draw a Dorito tile that would give him this meeple back, and then he would start a new potentially 8-point city next to his opponent's monastery, which is exactly what happens and exactly what will happen. And now red, of course, can still block that city, but if that happens, he will be blocking his own monastery as well. So it doesn't happen, and Viv just keeps building up his stuff. Bogdan with another Dorito tile, probably looking to maybe start obstructing Viv's road over here. Given the fact that we're running really short on city plus road ends, in fact, Wait, what happened to my voice? Wait a second. Water time. Oh dear. So, the reason why this move is strong is because there's only one road end tile that fits into this square, and this is already the tile that Viv needs for this here square. So the only chance for red to get a road meeple back is to get something like a starting tile, of which there are 2 remaining, start a new city, and then get himself a normal road end, such as a quadruple or triple crossroads or the road monastery. Bogdan, in the meantime, thinking where to place his straight line. I know that his dirty mind must be thinking of this, and this is what he goes for. Oh, you rascal. So it is, of course, the most spectacular move, but it is risky because there are only 2 straight lines remaining. However, there are also 2 starting tiles remaining, and this road is pretty decent. It has the downside of restricting this field quite severely, but then if you're green, what do you care if you're going to be getting like 12 points for this road eventually? Andres is saying marathon streaming takes a toll on your voice. Maybe, but it shouldn't be that way. So there are actually ways how you can speak without making your voice tired, and most of the time it's not an issue. Like, I've done 7-hour streams and stuff, with breaks of course. But I think the best way to deal with that is that we are going to have ourselves a bit of unplanned ASMR here, with much more gentleness. So we can see that Game Over finally managed to unify the 2 roads that he was doing for like half the game, to share those very valuable 6 points. He now starts a new city of himself, which he can still technically complete, or at the very least continue. And look at Viv, he doesn't even bother separating the roads. Instead, he wants to go for the undeniable 3 points and then set up 2 other 3-point roads in the process. Bogdan with a city tile just in time to finally block this square. But Viv cannot be too unhappy with that, as he got himself a lot of points. 11 ruin points, that's really not too shabby. And red generally has a good position. Red drew one of the remaining straight lines, trying to block that square, putting Bogdan in a bit of a bind. Now, do you go over here and defend that square but leave yourself only 50% chance? But then if you do this, this is actually not good, because this move gives Bogdan less than 50% chance. So sadly, this seems to be either a case of miscounting or not knowing one's probabilities. Wait, am I this sure? I think so. Wait. Actually, this is a tricky math problem, because you see, if Viv gets a straight line, that is the last straight line, and then the block is complete. But if Viv gets this one, then it's kind of a tricky decision for him. Does he go over here and turn this into a 50-50? Or does he wait one more turn and then try to block it here? I think this move, it's actually, I'm really not sure how. Yeah, I would probably need to use a calculator for this one. I really want to check that situation, because it's really complicated. Because you see now, Viv thinks whether it's worth getting 50-50 or not, and I don't think it is. So I think technically, if you do go over here and restrict that square, you are actually giving yourself a ever so slightly over 50% chance. No, not true. Like, if you go over here, then regardless of how you turn this tile, the block is a 50-50, because there's only one tile of each kind, one starting tile, one straight road. But if you leave it alone, then Bogdan is the slight favorite or maybe more than slight favor, to connect to the roads. Because all he needs to do is just draw one of these 2 tiles before Viv does. But let's say if Viv just ignores that spot, which is probably what I'm inclined to do, and maybe just goes over here and starts a new city perhaps. Now he does go for the 50-50, which has its merit in his own right, but Bogdan now with a fantastic splitter that gives him 8 points for a city and a juicy 9-point farmer. Of course, the side effect is completing a 4-point city for Viv and a monastery for Viv, but totally worth doing if you ask me. So the reason for this move, I think, is, well, first of all, it does take the probability down to 50-50. And Bogdan can actually now go here if he wants, really just gunning for that road. Probably worth doing, because then he also connects and gets a meeple back. That lovely. And if you go over here and you take this, then you just only get 1 more point. It's not such a big deal. He decided that he needs the point, and I think his plan is to maybe draw a couple of curves and then eat up these roads. And just as I was going to say, the reason why Viv played this move is because that if Bogdan successfully gets the straight line to fit into the square, statistically Viv is more likely to take advantage of this empty city cap, which is what happens. Bogdan with a curvy tile is going to score 3 points here if he sees that option. In the meantime, I need to move my map a little bit so that you can see Viv's invasion of Game Over City. Viv gets a 6-point farm at the bottom, which is the height that he can score. As Bogdan now, you probably want to either go over here and not allow Viv to maybe overrun the main field. If the tiles allow, actually, there are chances how Viv can drop a farmer here, get a tile like this, get a tile like this, and get himself a 2-to-1 majority on a big field containing these 15-point cities. But given how few road tiles have been remaining in the deck, I doubt if that's even possible. Of course, we could also go here and simply try and add 2 points to our city, whilst also trying to get a platform to block this square. And the only thing that matters in this situation is the calculation of tiles and points. So, first of all, do we even have to block the square in order to win? And if we do, does it actually work enough of the time for this move to be worth it? Although it's not like Bogdan has a lot of other options. So let's see what the situation is. So 2 points ahead on the scoreboard, 1 point extra for this road, so that's 3, but a 6-point road for Viv, so that's -3. Viv gets the straight line, a delightful sight for all our French fans, which means that these roads will not be connected. But Game Over actually has now chances to deny an invasion of red. Well, this was a good move because it restricts a lot of tiles, but Bogdan now with a monastery tile and really not great uses for it. Well, actually, he could score 3 points. Or he could go over here and score more points. Yeah, that would be nice. Getting a 4-point road and also adding himself the extra city in the field. And this is what he does. Goes for the monastery move instead. I guess that works out mathematically, just depends on the last tiles, what the last tiles are. And does it make sense for Viv to invade the city? I don't think so. Really not sure who won here, because Viv has this lovely city over here, and Bogdan has an extra 9-point field. This should be really close. Viv still has a meeple that he can use. In this particular instance, the 4-point monastery is indeed more precise because it allows Bogdan to use city tiles for development of his monastery on his last move, and he already has an open road to add a tile over here to gain 1 more point on his last move. But this is true for this position, but it is not true for all positions. If there were a crossroads remaining, then actually leaving this 5-point road for your opponent is not great. Well, this still actually might be the case. If there is a road tile remaining, you don't want to leave it to Viv. But the final tile, at least in Game Over's hand, is this city tile over here, which is very precisely used not to gain 1 point to himself, but to block the 8-point city that Viv was setting up. And that was a kind of cunning move by the Frenchman here, and it also resulted into in him scoring the greatest number of points possible. So we want to see who won in a second. It should be close, but I don't think it is, because 2 points is the win for Viv. So he calculated precisely that he actually had 100% win on his last 2 moves. Yeah, of course he wasn't precise in the first endgame, so decided to be precise in the second, and nice win here for the Frenchman, managing to win a crucial coin flip for a straight line that Bogdan used to try and connect to the road. And now, for the first time today, we are headed into a decider. So, can Bogdan keep his composure and stamina after this 2-point loss? Can Viv avoid getting complacent? The new game has started. Bogdan, the starting player, having the statistical 4% advantage and a 4-point monastery, but it is the Frenchman who already managed to get on the scoreboard with a 3-point completed road. Bogdan, with a city tile, building up his monastery and also thinking of using this platform to invade this ruin over here, which would also create a big city fight and build up their monastery in the process. And it's indeed Viv who is invading instead. I'm not sure if that ever works. I don't like this move one bit, at least intuitively. The move that I prefer is just going over here from Viv and starting to obstruct this square, because this ruin is not necessarily the strongest piece on the board, and actually there are some scenarios where Bogdan just keeps things tight and then just gets a splitter tile, finishes himself a 16-point city over here, and leave these 2 guys with the not the most appealing looking city. Bogdan threatening to finish an 8-point city that would also obstruct Vivian's 8-point road. Viv decides to connect to the ruin and prevent the exact scenario that I was talking about. And Bogdan here is getting a bit cute, trying to take the immediate road points and denying Viv a full curve, but he chooses not to finish his city immediately, He wants to get a Dorito tile here and finish the city a bit later, which if he gets the Dorito tile on his next move, it will look like a genius move. I would probably have preferred just the safer move, getting our 8 points, because Viv can still invade your block over here. And the reason why I'm a bit concerned about Bogdan moves in this particular runout is because we're running short on big tiles. 5 big tiles have been drawn early in the game, which is really rare for this stage of the game, and this affects our city building probabilities by a lot. So fortunately for us, Viv only restrict the square towards a road Dorito, which we should be cool with. Bogdan now trying to invade that ruin, and Viv, with a very sneaky way of building his city, he's trying to get 8 points, and it's a very safe way of getting 8 points because Bogdan cannot go over here and attack because he cannot afford to be creating a blocking platform against his own city. This is one of those situations where an invasion is more difficult because of the potential compromised city of Bogdan's own city, and the main theater of operations seems to be in the south of the map, where the 6th triple city tile, where the 6th big tile was drawn by Red, who now completes the connection over here. He'll be now looking to draw a simple Dorito to simply complete the monastery and also unify all ruins, and now it will be incumbent upon Viv to decide whether it's worth fighting for this ruin again. Game over, decides to score 2 quick points, and that's actually a very sneaky move. It was setting up some blocking possibilities against Viv, but Viv gets his lovely 12 points for the city and a lead on the scoreboard, but Bogdan immediately with a nice draw of his own gets himself a lovely 7-point monastery tile. And now, if I've seen Bogdan well enough from this game, the move that he's going to play is exactly this one. And okay, the farmer's nice, but of course it has a price of relinquishing an 8-point city to Viv. Still not sure, maybe worth the gamble. Maybe Meeple on the city would have been a bit more calm, especially given the fact that Game Over had the other extender. I think the reason why I probably slightly prefer the meeple here, rather than just dropping a farmer, the farmer, of course, are trying to be super efficient, is because there were still 6 tiles available that fit into that square. All 3 extenders and all 3 splitter tiles. And the reason why I prefer playing on the city here is because you could draw one of the splitter tiles, in which case you get to go over here, claim the other city, and then get 4 points for this one, 4 points for this one. 8 in total. With this move over here, even though it gives you the nice first pace on the farm, which is a nice thing to have, it actually sacrifices some city points in the event you do draw the splitter. So a big swing here, Bogdan starting a new city on his field. At the same time, he's also committed to invading at the bottom. Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to work out for the Romanian here, because strategically it's a bit all over the place. So you're kind of starting a fight for ruin, which makes sense, but you're also starting a fight for the field, and do you really have enough meeples for all this stuff? Maybe. But as soon as he finishes the city, it will give back a re-invasion platform for Viv anyway. So now also Bogdan needs really a lot of city tiles in order to advance his game. City cap over here, Dorito over here, Dorito over here, another Dorito over here. Then there's the added problem that as soon as Red gets a Dorito over here, this will make this square here a little bit more vulnerable and subject to a block, given the fact that only 2 big tiles are remaining. So in many situations, this square will end up getting blocked, and Red will need to try and sneak in through this route, through a couple of Doritos, in which case he would be helping out the monastery. of green. So game over now with a great tile. Just need to find the right priority. You don't go here. Leave the square empty. There's still 3 tiles that go there. You probably want to be going over here. Exactly. That's a really lovely move here. Trying to get himself a monastery meeple back and also preserve the chances of connecting over here. Viv actually can go over here now and try to severely limit this square, but instead he goes the other way, which is not precise. Okay, this is the case where I'm pretty sure about my probabilities. So there's still a 50% chance of drawing the tile that goes over here. If you place the Dorito the other way, you're leaving not a 50 but a 25% chance of drawing the tile that goes here. Because first and foremost, so you see, if you go over here, then there are no horse tiles available anymore. There are still 2 Doritos with the road. The place where Bogdan needs it the most is over here, of course. And if he draws one, he's going to go over here, and this leaves only 1 Dorito for Bogdan to draw. And then, so basically he would need to draw both Doritos in order to complete this connection. But now Bogdan can have himself a Dorito here and a triple city over here. Bogdan with a second farmer really going all out on the double big feature win condition. That's actually, it's a thing. It does occur pretty rarely, but if you do it right, in the right condition, it's absolutely a thing. Viv now uses a farmer to invade. Bogdan will now surely protect his city, which was going to be blocked. Now still 2 tiles that left over here, and a huge move for Viv as he managed to cover up this invasion square, because back-to-back Dorito combos or field Dorito combos were still possible. And Viv also invades over here. That's incredible. Bogdan now with a really tricky situation here. That his fields over here are not that great, and it is Viv who is in fact ahead on the ruin. Now there's still 1 more tile available over here, but not for long. Well, first of all, Viv could go here and block that square. But there's another thing that he can do. He can just finish his monastery with 2 road tiles, then get himself something like a Dorito or a city cap, and then just go over here and meeple this, and simply equalize and not allow red to connect over here. So I think what red needs to be looking into is just simply trying to win this game without the ruin. He does have very nice field control, 12 points, which will eventually be 18 points because he presumably is going to complete his city over here. And now a fantastic tile for Bogdan, which first of all blocks this monastery completely, which is very nice, and then leaves 1 more city cap for him to play with on the field. The downside is that, wait, oh, that's red. Yeah, because I didn't notice how green drew a curve and got himself a meeple back. So Bogdan with a Dorito tile. And for some reason he's thinking, obviously he's going to go over here and finish the city and get himself an advantage in this game. He was just thinking whether to meeple this road. And he decided that he needs to do this. I kind of like this, because the fates of the road and this monastery are tied. And of course, you really hate to be giving up such a beautiful ring road to your opponent. Viv restrict this road, but there's still a road monastery available to fit into this tile that would score so well for Bogdan. He's also now 12 points ahead. And overall, very unusual imbalance here, with Viv having the ruin, Bogdan not many chances of invading that ruin, although there's still 1 tile that fits into that square. Something that the French player doesn't seem to be caring about a lot at this moment. He also has an 18-point field, which scores roughly the same as the ruin. And the monasteries of Viv score roughly the same as the scoreboard lead of Bogdan. So all things considered, the situation's pretty equal, except for the fact that, first of all, Viv drew the road monastery that allowed him 4 extra points. these 4 extra points could matter a lot. But also because Viv has an extra meeple. So they're sort of even on the scoreboard, on everything, but Viv has the extra meeple, and an extra meeple will be converted into more points. But since Bogdan has a control on the field, and now he'll be able to nicely protect this square. Yes, he can tile count. It's not difficult for a player of this caliber to quickly realize what is the one remaining tile and prepare the square according to its shape. Viv gets quick points. Game over with straight line, and a dangerous straight line. So he's now getting himself an extra road point, but he's actually helping out Viv's monastery quite a bit. And I'm worried about a situation where Game Over doesn't get his road meeple back, but Viv gets his monastery meeple back, and now I have no doubt that the French player will go over here and prepare one of the 2 remaining monasteries to finish himself a monastery and start a new one. And that's why, for the most part, when you're in a mini battle, then you just don't move. You just stay there and you wait for your road end. Like, this move has no value for Viv, for Game Over, really. It just has more value to Viv. There's an alternative move that Viv must be considering. He could going over here and restricting the city cap, but Game Over just drew. But instead, of course, that setting up of the monastery is just so enticing. Game Over now will be trying to do something about this. Maybe going over here, adding himself a road point, and then trying to block the square. Certainly would be a worthy thing to be considering. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait, yeah, there's also the thing. There's only 1 road end remaining for Game Over. Like, which road are you trying to finish? Viv now gets quite fortunate with the city cap. He's just cleaning off all the city caps for Bogdan. And Bogdan, I'm not sure if he can even finish his road. Well, I guess this road finish is nice, but then maybe you prefer the 7 points. He does go for the road finish and drops 1 more city cap into his field, which I think will be cleaned off by Viv again, because he can just go here and build himself a nice-looking 8-point city. Only 5-point lead for Vivian. For Game Over, rather. Oh, thank you, Wise Mates, for correcting me that there's only 1 monastery remaining. Still an absolutely worthy attempt for Viv, because like the way you win this game is just you create yourself high impact tiles. The scoring doesn't matter that much. It's just all about setting up the tiles. Bogdan has a very obvious high impact tile over here. It's that one. And now at the very least, to compensate that, Viv has a monastery, and there are some cases where maybe he can win even if that ruin is equalized. Speaking of equalizing the ruin, I'm pretty sure that Vivian is considering going over here, but he doesn't want to do that because he thinks that he cannot yet afford to invest a meeple into something like this. So he goes for a new city. Bogdan probably wants to go over here and deny Viv that monastery. It's only a 50-50 block because there's still a city cap available, but that actually ain't no big deal because the city cap is needed by Viv in another place anyway. And you really want to prevent that 8-point disaster, so that's why the move has been played by Viv, and a great tile for Bogdan. Now he can go over here and drop a farmer like this, set up 2 cities at the same time, trying to just get as many points as possible from these fields in the event that he does not connect to the ruin, which is still not necessarily a given outcome. I think in this position, you just go over here and you set up a 6-point city and a 4-point city. I'm really not that afraid as Bogdan about the 6-point city, because your opponent is already threatening to draw a city cap and finish themselves an 8-point city. So a 6-point city left empty is not that scary at all. also it allows you to use both city caps. It's actually the only square on the board where you can draw both city caps unobstructed. It's interesting how this field is really not as open as it may seem. Because you don't want to be going over here, because then this city cap is obstructed. But if you go over here, you can draw the vanilla for this square. And you can probably draw something for this square. And by something, I mean what exactly? I kind of didn't bother counting the number of city caps. Well, I do see that there are 2 daggers remaining, which is fantastic news for Bogdan. And both of them are the same type of dagger as well. And it is not the dagger that fits into this square. It is, in fact, the left-handed dagger. There's, of course, the one vanilla that we were talking about, and there are no splitters of any kind. And there is no starting tile. Or is there? 1, 2, 3, 4. No starting tile. So vanilla and 2 daggers. It's great. You only need to draw 1 city cap, really, to get the extra 7 points. Bogdan with 45 seconds on his clock, but an extra meeple to work with. I think he's now considering a variety of moves. He's thinking whether to meeple this city. Not sure if it's quite worth it, but then again, it's not clear where we're using our last meeple. And Bogdan draws a tile there, and that's, I think, is a miss. Viv gets the key tile, and now, of course, he won't be going over here. He will be just either adding 2 points to cover up his city, or rather, he will break Bogdan's city cap. Viv will go over here and make sure that this city cap cannot be taken advantage of. It's more important than these 2 points. So sadly, this misplacement by Bogdan will cost him a lot of his win percentage. Wait, what am I talking about? Okay, somebody should have told me in the chat. There's no vanilla left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this was a complete block, which then makes me wonder why Bogdan thought about it for so long. But there's still 2 city caps. There's still 2 daggers, so it's absolutely worth doing to break the city cap. But why does he not do that? Bogdan gets a break here. He's loving that dagger. Gimme the 7 points. Gimme the 7 points. I assume this is what is going through his head. Viv is trying to cover up his city, and because he's doing that, it makes me think that Viv believes that Bogdan's fields are not enough, and that if he just preserves the majority on his city, then he wins. Is that the case? I'm not sure. What I'm sure of is that Bogdan gets a straight line and no productive place to use this, but because there are only 2 more tiles available, you kind of have to make moves. He's going to meeple the 2-point road. The purpose of this move is to disallow Viv dropping a... Why would either of these players do that? I don't get this. Am I miscounting tiles? I don't think I am. Bogdan now with an easy block, and Viv just sort of blocked off his own city. Bogdan with a monastery which plays somewhere for 5 points, or it doesn't matter where exactly. And who wins? I don't know. A bit of a puzzling endgame from both players, especially from Viv, who seems to be really ignoring this city cap, but maybe it was actually enough. We're going to see in a second. Well, he does sure have a lot of city points. That was a 19-point city. How big is the field? 27! And the Romanian player wins this by 3 points, which means that the move which cost Viv the game was this one over here. It's as simple as that. Because this move lost Viv 5 points. The reason why this move lost Viv 5 points, or actually even 6 points, I'll tell you why in a second. Because he took 2 points for a city and allowed a 7-point move for Bogdan. So that's a net 5-point loss. If you were just to go over here and break the city cap, then Bogdan would not have any productive way to use this city cap. Well, actually, he would then just go over here and block Viv's city. And then that's it. The players would have scored the same number of points. Well, maybe Bogdan would have gotten himself a couple of extra road points because he wouldn't have to block so hard. So he could have gone over here, taken 4 points, the same 5-point monastery. So then this means that Viv gets 5 more, Bogdan gets 2 more. So the net result is that Viv gets himself 1 more point net and wins by 1 point. Or actually, because this tile would not have been over here, it would not have been possible for the Frenchman to play his final move like this, where he scored 3 points for a road and 1 point for a city. So he would not have been able to place a 4-point move. He would have only been able to make a 3-point move. Oh, no. He would have just gone over here and taken this rune. Wait, no, he would have gone over here and taken this rune. So that's actually would have been the same. Because we need to imagine this tile over here. So yeah, it turns out that some endgame and precision. Again, it was a very interesting back and forth game. And I also have to take back one thing that I said about Bogdan's move. This city cap placement in his own field was actually the best. Because at the time of the move, I somehow hallucinated that there was still one starting tile, that there was still one vanilla tile remaining, because these vanillas are all clustered together and kind of a bit harder to count. And so I was assuming that there's still a chance to draw vanilla. But with no chance to draw vanilla, this is the least restrictive. Well, yeah, this is the best way to leave a city cap unobstructed in your field, because this is the only square where you can use at least one of the city caps and where it will not be obstructed by roads. Hi, Blitz. So Blitz is saying that Bogdan could have attacked the city, but why would he do that? Because you see, like, Bogdan was in the lead, in the driver's seat. So from Viv's perspective, it's not a big deal if your opponent attacks the city, because then they just go for a 50-50. And also from your perspective, from Viv's perspective, the chances of Bogdan invading were less than 50%, because Bogdan would have to draw the city cap and then the Dorito in a particular order. And if you're leaving this square unobstructed, then Bogdan's win condition is just drawing this tile over here. So preventing a marginal invasion opportunity is really not something that you want to be doing, especially if you go over here with 1. If Bogdan were to invade like this, then Viv can still draw the second city cap that goes over here, which allows him to block that square. So this move definitely a misprioritization from the Frenchman. Again, it's not that obvious when you're playing, because you only know the current point count, it's a bit difficult to see like how exactly you're gonna score if your opponent gets the city cap or doesn't get the city cap or get the Dorito. And if anything, actually, because Bogdan was the one with a higher winning probability at this point, you want to really hope that your opponent goes for the invasion, because in terms of win percentage, that's the one which is less likely for them. Again, so what is more likely? That red draws one city cap, with which they take 7 points, or that they draw the same city cap plus also a Dorito and they also don't get blocked. So obviously the more elaborate tile sequence is less likely. I think there's a psychological factor at play, that you think that your opponent invading the city is just so bad because the city is a lot of points and will give him a lot of points. But in this particular game, whether it's 7 points or whether it's 20 points, it actually doesn't matter, because both of these scores, both of these point numbers, put Bogdan ahead of Viv. So once a feature is game defining, it actually doesn't matter how small or how big this is. This little city cap turns out game defining. It's 7 points. A game-defining feature worth 7 points. Whether it's 7 or 20 or 30, still, like, it affects the win probability in the same way. Now, maybe there was still a chance, of course, for Viv to draw this city cap and finish their city a little bit earlier. But then for that to happen, they would need to draw it not on their last move, so that they could still use the meeple that they were to get back from it. That's one thing about this. And second, yeah, so it's just as simple as this. It's just a 5-point miss. There's really not much to it. Hi, Girappa. Yeah, and also, like, Bogdan played this one really extravagantly, some content moves, like this farmer over here, but it ended up working out. And look at this, even trying to stretch out in 2 places worked like a charm. I mean, he's lost the ruin, but he got himself the field and the city caps, and that was enough. And I'm gonna argue that him invading the ruin actually helped him try winning. Even though he didn't get the ruin, at the time he got himself a better win probability. Like, if you have just 1 extra game-winning tile, it basically multiplies your winning probability by 2. It's really that powerful. And the point is that, sort of, because Game Over didn't draw this tile over here, he had more opportunities and more moves where he could draw something else just as good and just as impactful, which in his case were some splitters and city caps. This also shows you how powerful it is to have an undisputed majority on an open field. So actually, Viv got a lot of city caps for himself. So you see, the way it worked, Bogdan dropped this one, then Viv was the one to clean up. So it was a net +1 point for green. Then Bogdan dropped this one for 0 points. Then Viv was the one to clean this one up for net +1 for green. But on his 3rd attempt, Bogdan dropped this one, and finally he was the one who got to clean this up, and he got +7 or -7 from Red's perspective. So if you look at all of these sequences of moves, then 5 points is what Bogdan netted from this area. So the thing is, like, if you drop multiple city caps into your field and your opponent keeps cleaning them up, and you just only meeple yourself a couple, 1 or 2, then that still puts you significantly ahead of your opponents in that net points exchange, just because of how powerful that 1 7-point combo is. So yeah, quite a spectacular game and a bit of an upset, so we definitely congratulate the Romanian player with the win. For Viv, we wish them the best of luck, of course, in their upcoming rounds, although I'm pretty sure that they will be the favorite in all their other remaining matches. And let's actually have a look at what they are. So who did Viv win against? I kind of keep forgetting. Oh, I guess, oh yeah, that was against Slum Bay. So he still has to play against this player, who is self-evident. And probably I think that would be his main opponent. The other ones, even though they're strong experts, are probably not quite on the Frenchman's level, but self-evident is the one who's going to give him a real fight. So now that this Viv has lost one, I think this really blows up this group because, for example, Game Over lost against Tito Arce, but he won against Viv, and we're probably going to end up with a lot of ties and tiebreakers and stuff like this. Alrighty, let me finally update the scoreboard to reflect that the Romanian has won this game. And with that, it concludes the stream, but it does not conclude our evening. First of all, make sure to meeple the like button, of course. This does help for the algorithm quite a lot more than you might think. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more competitive Carcassonne content like this. And speaking of more competitive Carcassonne content, there's more coming up in just 1 hour. 22:30 UTC, we will be seeing the main match of the week, which is the 2023 World Champion Matt Tucker against the Japanese master with the screen name Koki Yamaguchi, and I think the actual name Koki Yamaguchi as well, who has gotten also really strong. Kind of honestly not know who the favorite is. I think this one's really 50-50. Maybe like a slight edge to Matt purely because of experience in tournament context. So he's really good when it comes to all those, I guess, mind sport soft kills, such as stamina, such as like keeping your composure in a difficult position. And this should be also a long match, I think up to 2 hours. But Koki Yamaguchi, currently the higher rated player at the moment, just rates it over 700. So obviously somebody with a deep understanding of the game. And for that, I'll see y'all in an hour. And then tomorrow's matches we're going to discuss after this, after the late evening stream. Then that's it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.